She's blind, alone, and rejected by her world. But what if her fate is intertwined with the most formidable alpha in legend? Monet must survive in a world where weakness is unforgivable and the past holds secrets that will change everything. Can she find the strength to embrace her true nature and tame the heart of the one who promised to protect her but can destroy her? Call of the Moon, the story of Coin, is a gripping saga of freedom, love, and the struggle to find a place in this cruel world. Authors note, "Hi everyone. The photo above is an example of light perception blindness, which is what the character I am attempting to portray is conditioned with. Also, this book is very much not thought out yet, so if you have any ideas, let me know. They may appear in some later chapters. Enjoy. Trigger warning: physical abuse, a raised hand aleph to shield my cowering body, yet it does nothing to help. The lashes are relentless, on my back, on my face, on my legs. I hear the splitting of air to my right, forcing me to tense and embrace the next lash. If only I could force a glimpse into the devilish eyes of my abuser. As if I squeeze my eyes hard enough, the next time I open them, I'll be able to see. A pathetic whimper escaped the knots of my closed lips, a hot stinging sensation forming across my exposed thigh. The rest of my body already hardened and raw from the non-stop flogging. Mom, I attempted a plead, though my speech is heavily slurred. I cry out in pain, wishing desperately somebody would take pity on me. But I know no one will. Nobody has ever helped me, and nobody ever will. I wheeze quietly to myself, harshly forcing my eyes together, though it would not matter if they were open or closed. The window to my left wide and bright, probing natural sunlight into the room. Everything a bleak gray except for the figure standing in the morning rays, an unfocused white blur. Perhaps somebody was at the other end of my prayer, because they finally left the confines of my bedroom. I don't feel any more at ease, nonetheless. My body radiates a stinge that I know will go away soon. I have since learned how to ease the sensation through methods of my own. Though my eyes do not work, I still see. I see an unorthodox rectangle, as white as ever imaginable. Light pours in through the window, the only thing I can see. It gleams of hard whites along a slate that can only be described as nothing, though I know what is near. A bed, a dresser, a window, a door. I do not use the dresser and I do not use the door. I lie flat on the unforgiving boards of the wooden floor. I let the tips of my calloused fingers feel across the rough splinters, my fingernails grazing inside and out of the old divots. This board is 26 years old, according to the amount of rings, if I am feeling correctly. The board beneath my left hand is 13, and I find a calming inequity in the death of a 13-year-old tree. Killed, dismembered, sawed into pieces to become a single floorboard in my bedroom. The paroxysm of the sun's rays flowing into my useless eyes cause a relief, one that the cool floorboards against my wounds cannot provide. Natural light is the only visible distinction between light and dark I have. I was born like this, the moon made me like this. The excitement is audible as people come and go through the street, their only worry being the later events of the week to come. Despite my window being positioned in a third-story attic, I catch the passerbyers' brief conversations. It is the pastime I enjoy the most. In fact, it is one of the only pastimes I am capable of. This time around, a festival of the moon takes place in my pack. It is our pack's main attraction, as well as our way of praising the moon and everything it brings for us. For them, the moon has done nothing in my favor. This year's festival will be special, according to the woman chatting on the street bench far beneath my window. I can't believe an alpha will be visiting on official business, she exclaims, more joyful than she should be. The scents of the females under my window are familiar. One is a natural, attractive fragrance that smells etiquette for our pack's climates. The second woman has on an evident mask, her natural aroma invisible to the nose, scenty perfume of a vanilla flower, a quite common scent. In some packs, it is illegal to use scent maskers. These women pass through here often, their scents leaving a trace in my mind along with everyone else's. I tune out the conversation, honing in on the vibrations that exist around me. Silent HMMs from bees in a nearby tree, possibly thousands of them. To be a worker bee, living with a purpose, to have a motive behind every action. being so passionate about a cause that you devote your entire life to the task, even something like merely collecting pollen just to have to do it again. I am envious of the worker bees. The door creaks open, forcing a jolted bodily reaction. I recognize who it is before they step through the threshold of the door, their scent potent in my nostrils, along with many others. He grabs my hand, helping me upright off of the ground. Not a word is said as he leads the way with the hem of my sleeve, being entirely oblivious to my knowledge of the layout of the room. I am led further away from my safe space and closer to the door. The wind around me swooshes in a motion I am familiar with, the way it interlopes itself in swirls and zigzags, the dances it does along the ceiling, a dance it can only do for me. Nobody else can hear the swish sways of its movements like I can. My bones dampen as we near the door, though I'm not about to object. It's not uncommon that they take me downstairs, but still enough to make me start shaking. The bipolar feelings that consume my mother are so unpredictable, it frightens me to be in her presence. The hardened sole of my bare foot touches the first step of 14. It creaks very slightly, as I knew it would. The next 3 will make a similar sound, the rest are silent, until you reach the final one. The bottom of the stairs feels like a foreign territory, land I have never stepped foot on. I have, though, and everything is exactly how it is. Neat, organized, and completely devoid of any life or personality. "Hello, Monet dear," my mother calls from another room. I don't know my way around, so I just stand. My father is gone, and I don't know where. Nobody makes a move, not one that I can hear. "How do you feel about the festival this year?" I'm not sure what she is asking. The festival is something I have always imagined but never considered. I've been nullified from human contact for 3 weeks now, let alone having the ability to fathom attending a bustling festival. When I don't answer, she continued to speak for me. "Well, we are going next week. We are going to be a family for once," she demands, claiming as if it were my fault that we are not a family. All these years, I've only heard good stories from when my parents were newly mated. Then I was born, ugly, blind, and useless according to them. My brother tells me my hair is white like my skin, unusually white. Albino, they call it. It is the reason I am blind, the reason my parents and everybody else in the pack hates me. The pack is only as strong as its weakest link, and I, indefinitely, am the weakest link. And with that, she dismisses me. I turn at the bottom of the stairs and carefully make my way up. After years, I have memorized the pattern of the creaks, which stairs will make a sound, where to step to keep quiet. Years of being locked away, hidden from the rest of the pack. I am an embarrassment to my family and our community. I opt back to the floor by my window, sitting against the edge. I wonder if people can see me up here, lurking behind the class, listening to their conversations, memorizing their words. This is how I absorb information. This is how I learn. Word count 856, the Moon Festival is of great importance in our pack. It's one of the last traditions we have left as modernized wolves. On the first full moon of the new year, every wolf gives thanks to the moon for all it gave us, and continues to give us. All day long, there will be festivities and gathering in the pursuit of celebration. The festival is also an annual Kickstarter for young pups to meet their wolves. It's one of the only times someone might shift in a year, aside from kids always wanting to shift. It's sad to see people take their wolf for granted, that as a species our defining quality has become something you grow out of as an adult. When we are born, our consciousness is split into 2 halves, our human half and our wolf half. Typically, we are not introduced to our inner wolf until puberty. The Moon Festival is a chance for our young to endure their first shift. As for myself, I have not met my wolf yet, not even at 20 years old. I have been told many cruel things, such as the moon did not bless me with the ability to shift, that she wanted me to suffer for what I am, for what I wish I wasn't. The Moon Festival is just another reason I am not meant to be who I am, and for a moment, I feel blessed that I was not given the ability to shift, so I would not have to praise her. I have nothing to thank her for. It is the morning of the festival, and my mother is helping me get ready. My lack of dependence drills me deeper inside of my mind, gravely yearning for a way out of my appearance at today's event, since you won't be shifting. My mother glares pointedly, sending my already warped stomach into a knot. I could feel the distaste of her scowled face. I want you to look presentable on the outside, as if it were possible. If I could see myself, I know I would dislike what I am. Nobody except my brother has ever been kind to my appearance. What is worse is that I will never have the ability to live up to what I was meant to be, a spee wife. They are one of the utmost significant members of a pack, aside from the alpha. The oracles of the moon are symbols of peace among our kind, and since my grandmama passed when I was 5, our pack has been left without. Every second generation supposedly holds the soothsayer gene, equipped with the potential to enchant. With an outstretched arm, I grab a piece of clothing hanging in the wardrobe. The satin touch of fabric makes my arm hairs arise, a silk material engulfing my hands with pleasure. I have never felt a material so rich, so redeeming. I want to wear it to dance with it. I crave the feeling of a material so beautiful to cover my repulsive body. A throaty scoff is heard to my right, which compels me to forcibly drop the silken dress. As if you could wear something as white, it would make your complexion even paler. She hands me something else, a tulle material that scratches at my raw pores. I memorize the icy feel of the white dress from before, slipping through my grip, yet forever in my mind. The cool fabric reminded me of the way my bloodied skin felt against the hard wood floor. I want to wear that white dress. White, it is my least favorite color. She raises both my arms to manipulate the clothes off of my sunken-in body. My top is thrown carelessly onto the floor beside me. The plop of it hitting the ground startles me. Mutters astray from her irritated mouth, forcing my bottoms off as well. I could be doing this by myself. My malnourished body protrudes in places it likely shouldn't. I attempt to cover myself in this moment of vulnerability, unable to control the situation. I step into the hem of the itchy clothing item that my mother deemed suitable for tonight. She pulls it up and over my body, covering the places I desperately want to keep hidden. There is all she says, as she successfully put the dress on my body. I feel her presence in front of my own, something I've had the ability to do for as long as I can remember. I want to speak, to invent a conversation between us. Today she is not angry, which I am grateful for. She never is on the night of the moon. Full moons are what I look forward to. What am I wearing? She hates when I speak. I never used to stutter until she started getting angry enough to hit me. I am her living, breathing shame. A dress, she says keenly. An ankle-length dress, it's dark blue and has stars on it. I lift my agile hands to feel it, my waist, my arms, my chest. It is fitted at the waist up and extends over my shoulders to the wrists of my arm. A long V-neck cut right to the edge of my stomach, exposing my chest. The bottom is loose and slightly puffed out, around my form. It suits the events of tonight. We depart from the house without any issues. No yelling, no breaking things. The festival conciliates any and all bad feelings, making today possibly the best day of my life. The Central, not far from the house, is beaming with people everywhere. My stomach bursts with an upsurge of uneasy feelings, unable to comprehend anything around me. My heart quickens and my breath thins. Noises in every direction team my senses in an overload of stimulation. Footsteps on pavement behind and in front, bells rung from food booths and various smells of delicious servings. Non-stop cheery conversation in sequence, spiraling my mind until all my senses combine into one and my eyes roll in the back of my head and I'm falling. My chest heaves with heavy uncertainty and I jolt at an abrupt grab of my arm. Focus. Me. On me. Focus on my voice, words are heard but not processed, the breath of someone close on the side of my face. Focus on what I'm saying, okay? Monet, are you there? The person speaking is unfamiliar to my ears, an innocent bystander, a witness of my overwhelmed, anxiety-ridden state. I listen to them inherently, concentrating on their counting. They ask me to identify 4 things I hear people walking: birds chirping, food truck bells, my own breathing. Then, 3 things I feel: the grass beneath me, their breath on my face, and the constraint of the waist-fitted dress. After that, 2 things I smell: the damaged grass around me, and something profuse in the distance I can't pinpoint. The smell intrigues me. My mind focuses on it and hones me back to reality. I dig my hands into the dirt and steady myself, taking a breath knowing I'm safe. Word count 1185 Mother describes the moon hanging low in the sky, though she rejects using more detail for my sake. Nevertheless, I'm grateful for her telling me anything. My trembling has yet to cease since my prior incident with anxiety of being in a crowd, though I'm content in my position. The sun has, for the most part, gone down, and now I'm left with a fully dark mural between my irises and ether space. People begin to shift as I hear the relentless cracking of human bones, morphing into that of a wild canine. From what I know, people come from all over to feel the wholeness of our community, connect with the moon. The way they describe the feeling of shifting, allowing their primal instincts to take over and feel the interconnectedness of the earth, moon, and spirit. It makes my body ache with longing, knowing I'm not capable of doing so. I feel more than one strong presence approach the central, smelling their overpowering scent from a kilometer away. Almost overbearing, I feel the vulnerability of being in the presence of a powerful individual or two. I seem to be the only soul who noticed the insurgence of mightiness engulf the area until a boisterous roar erupts. Our pack's alpha, Alpha Coulter, forcefully turns everybody's attention to him. Not even crickets dared defy the silence spread clad through the atmosphere. This year's Festival of the Moon shall be greater than ever, he speaks, though it is heard by every soul ear. We will thank the moon for this season's food, our land, and our kind's ability to exist. The passion in his speech is unrelenting. He continues on, each word he says fueling the minds of his pack, making them feel accepted and worthy. He is a great leader, the best in our vicinity. I thank Alpha Alaric for joining us on this great night ceremony. Some gasps were heard, murmurs dispersed through the many Alpha Alaric, I quiver. The most infamous Alpha alive today, notorious for killing any questionable body that steps within his territory. At least those were the rumors that spread around my pack. He doesn't even believe in the moon goddess. Someone whispers, "Why is he here?" Their answers would be as good as my own. Praised be, a sickly, smooth voice travels through the air, an ominous quietness settles right after. It is evident the unknown voice came from the Alpha, the way his speech exudes authority. He holds the exact scent that evaded my thoughts all afternoon, something I have never smelled before, something foreign. Eventually, the crowds are able to manifest words yet again, taking part in festivities to come. It is just about time. Almost everyone has shifted by now. I know this by the auras of the bodies that surround me. They're instinctual, primal, fundamental. My mother even shifted, leaving me to my own devices, alone in a gazebo in the center of the park. I listen reluctantly to the cracking of bones, Alpha Colton first, then the rest following his lead. Alpha Colton begins the ceremony with his defeating howl, marking his stakes again over his land and people. Strayed howls chime together, all at once. One at a time, they pray to the moon and all of her glory. Their instinctual cries rip something deep within my core, a serenity that passes through my body, desiring to join the raving hounds and their spiritual dance of the night. I can feel their souls connect with mine, a drawing within me growing stronger and deeper, exaggerating every part of my being into something I do not recognize. My body is on autopilot, and I am pushed far beyond consciousness, something else entirely, controlling my will to move. I cannot see what I'm inching towards, but I can tell my body does. It moves for me, reaching the other end of the gazebo, folding my body over the railing to gawk at the full moon in the middle of the night sky, as if my body can see what I can't. You are not partaking in tonight's ceremony. It tears me back to my half-conscious state. A being from behind me utters loudly into the wind. He is speaking to me. Fear strikes me down cloud 9, almost willing myself to the ground. I am back at the forefront of my own mind, alarm bells screaming from each direction. Skillfully, I place myself on the bench at the opposite side of the gazebo, then the stranger. His presence exudes mine, not only naturally but dominantly. A familiar scent of something similar to sweetly roasted coffee, mixed with something earthly. And why are you not participating? Are you not grateful for your savior? He replied to himself, my confidence in speaking residing below sea level. I know who he is, yet I don't why he is here. He doesn't know about my inability to shift. If he finds out, I bet he'll kill me. He will know how utterly useless I am, and being the ruthless alpha everyone whispers him to be, I'm sure he will. My head bowed in a heavy manner, not in respect, but in trepidation. I discern his unwavering gaze over my ill silhouette. Look at me. I opened my eyes, though it made no difference. Black is still black. All I am left with are my 4 senses. He will kill me if I don't look. He will kill me if I do. He will look into my sightless eyes and see my futile existence isn't worth living. He will kill me, and we will be doing the pack a justice by it. He growls a low, throaty snarl to warn me about disobeying an alpha. There will be consequences, we both know that. His lingering growls let me know he is not going to allow me to contravene his word. I steadily inch my head upwards, visibly shaking everywhere else. Maybe he won't notice my depthless eyes from across the gazebo. My life depends on it. You're blind. Word count 996, you're blind. Of course he noticed. He isn't stupid. He's an alpha, you can't just fool an alpha. His slight movements startle the air back into my lungs, not daring myself to take another breath. I hear his wrinkled clothes flatten as he stands upright to saunter in my direction. My muscles tense at his doing so, bulbous eyes staring straight ahead. I'm not sure how close he is anymore. All of my senses are going wild. I'm not even sure if I could smell the air if I wished to. I feel useless with my body's inability to quit twitching in fear, or even take back my ability to control my breathing. A hand grabs my chin, making me flinch out of reflex. As his skin makes contact with my own, signals go off in my brain, an explosion of electric shocks between my chin and his 3 fingers. He forces his hand away. The quick stimulation travels through my chin and into my entire body, elating my perception. I'm not sure what this means, but the feeling is unique to anything I have felt before. He grabs me again, harder this time. The sensation is back but multiplied by 2, forcing me to go limp in his hold. It is wiser to obey this incredibly powerful, evil man in front of me. Who the hell are you? He scalds, his voice unfaltering, but I'm sure he feels what I feel. M. Monet, I squeeze out, through fear and through pleasure. I cauterize myself for liking the sparks that his painfully tight hand is giving me. I don't dare ask his name, nor do I have to. Alpha Alaric stands before me, ready to gruesomely attack my bare neck with his teeth. This is it. He's going to kill me. Here, surrounded by the true-hearted howls of my wolf pack, I will be murdered by Alpha Alaric. I make no further move, no attempt at escape. Even if I wanted to, it would be impossible. The moments I believe to be my final, I tune in to the frequencies of the earth around me, one last time. Passionate hymns are sang by the Silver Heart Pack, expressing their wholehearted desire to please the moon. Howls of the young and old appear everywhere, high-pitched songs of love and appreciation. It strikes a serenity in my soul. The smell of freshly trimmed grass, prepared for today's event. A sweet, yet bitter fragrance of fresh vegetation. Crickets residing within the blades of grass chip woeful melodies, along with the pack. The vibrations under my bare feet of wolves tramping and singing, the technical waves they omit through the ground, to be absorbed by the soles of my feet. I listen to everything around me, awaiting the inevitable death to come. His calloused hand still pried to my chin, he grips tighter. I wince, though he doesn't let it go. I expect claws inches long to protrude from his fingers and pierce my skull. Daggers of teeth will sink deep into my neck, violently tearing away at my poor, poor life. Nothing happens, though. Not for a while. He daintily lets loose my probably now bruised skull, allowing me room to tremor. His proximity caused his rich scent to mix with my own, and before I know it, I'm on a high. Exaggerated breaths deflate my lungs wholly, deep heaves of air traveling in and out of my body. Breathing of his own has changed as well, and I thought to myself, embrace yourself. This is it. And I did just that, squeezing my eyes, cowering over and into myself just like I'm used to, ready for the excruciating pain to inflame my body mate. A low, hoarse growl emits from the alpha mate. I didn't hear that right. Mate? A thick slashing of air appears close to my being. My failure to react pushes me into my downfall. A blunt force of blackness numbs my body. Lower, lower, lower my body falls into an unconsciousness. My eyes open dryly, blinking moisture to the surface. Unaware, I move my hand, finding the edge of the bedding. My fingers curl along the frame, recognizing the splintered corners and oval knots. I'm in my own bed in my own room. I try and rework what conspired the night before, remembering only the overwhelming feeling of anxiety that had taken over my body. I remember falling to the ground in a fog of sensory overload and being talked back up by a gentlewoman. I remember the songs of the elderly wolves harmonized with the young. I remember a scent, a hand, a sound, and a feeling, then I remember nothing. I anathemize myself for being so debilitated by anxiety. My mind slips away in fear and I'm gone entirely. My stomach and throat swell and my body lets go. My mind is at ease until I later wake up. This is what happened previously and what happened last night. I lie in the same position as I woke up in, unknowing of what to feel. Did what I remember even happen? I wring my hand around the bottom corner of the frame, letting the dull edge press hard against my palm. Could I have dreamt it all? I feel the ridges of the wood as I glide my forearm and hand against the wood. I suppose I could have dreamt it. After a while, I turn restless. My hand uncups the frame, leaving a warmth in the wood where my presence had been. I push up with my palms to sit, feeling an impalescent scratch over my skin, realizing the dress from the ceremony is still tight to my body. I lift one leg over the bed and then another. I let the fabric drag behind me in a probably wrinkled mess. I don't care and keep going, pushing to a weary stand. My head feels light in a sleepish daze, spinning. I pull at the shoulders of the dress, unbinding my limbs of the itchy cuffs around the thick part of my arms. I stretch my arms back in an awkward manner, attempting to unzip the dress clad to my skin. After a few tries, I finally got it, delicately sliding the fabric down my hips, dropping around my ankles. Using the wall for leverage, I step out of the sunken dress. I leave it behind, dragging my body to move forward, despite its faintness. I move to the far corner of the room, the cold wooden floor feeling comforting on the bottom of my feet. So many times have my feet gone numb to the cold here. I stand before the small, cornered wardrobe, leaning into the closed surface. I let my bare chest, shoulders, and stomach feel the material, my right cheek just barely pressed. With a sigh, I grab the metal handle and slowly tug it open, creating a long, exaggerated creak of the hinges. I do the same with the left wardrobe door, the creak longing through the empty room. I feel everything from left to right, the 5 or so items hanging on the short rack. I pick at one thing in particular, a material soft on my hands. I hand the hanger and remove the nightgown, intending to cover my unadorned body. I close the left door but pause, an unwavering feeling of being scrutinized, something unfamiliar, not often felt. I glaze my body around the room, not to look, but to feel if a presence exists. No one is thought to be around, though my brain is telling me that I'm being observed. I slip the gown easily over my head, the wide body of it falling around my knees. An uneasiness settles in, knowing nothing is around, yet intuitive pit in my stomach tells me someone sees. I stand in an uncomfortable heap, an eerie quietness that makes me feel unsafe. It's never anything but quiet, but this time it doesn't feel right. I close myself off, sitting in the feeling and mulling it over and over. I sit in a corner, hands around my knees. I want nothing but to feel normal in my small, empty room. Something in my gut tells me I'm unsafe in a different way than I ever was before. Staying in my position for so long, I couldn't hold myself any longer. My body became weak and my mind numb. I had, though, the situation over and over more times than I care to remember. My head mods off, falling stop my knees. My mind is asleep at ease, unbeknownst to what is truly happening. Word count 1443 extreme high-pitch sounds ring in my ears, a pain striking the side of my head creating a dense, compressed feeling. Tears slip from the corners of my eyes, down my right cheek. Heavy blankets lie atop my body, my attempts to escape futile due to the tear-jerking pain. I squirm beneath them, finding the edge of the bedding. I yelp as I fall from the bed to the floor, soon realizing it is much higher up than originally thought. "You're awake," a voice from the opposite side of the room blurbs. I freeze in my place, terrified of the possibilities that could be an outcome of my recent decision. I don't know where I am, what I'm doing here, or who is on the other side of this mattress. Suddenly, the bed that felt so big and so hard to escape now feels endlessly small, not putting nearly enough distance between the stranger and I. Light steps sent vibrations into the cold floor, reaching the palms of my hands, situated flat on the ground. They step closer, my heart racing faster with each moment. A woman, by the feel of their steps, saunters to my side. Even if she was smaller than me, I couldn't fight her. I can't escape. She takes my hands gently in her own, lifting me onto my feet. A thought pops into my head and my hands run over my body, causing a sigh of relief to exude my lips. I'm still wearing the nightgown I've fallen asleep in. I haven't been prodded with. Monet, right? I brought you clothes. Her voice is tender, a misuse for the circumstance we are in. I'm not supposed to be here, she should know that. I stand unmoving, glued to my post at the bedside. Chills in my bones send me into a shock, though I decide it is wise not to perceive my vulnerabilities any more than I already have. If the woman beside me, speaking my name and uttering words I refuse to hear, is about to strike me down, I do not want to look like a coward, not like the coward I am when my mother is hurting me. Monet, I'm not going to hurt you, the woman speaks again, placing a hand on the wrist of my nightgown. You look scared. She states my fear as if I don't feel it myself. I am. I'd say to her I'm terrified and I don't know what you'll do to me still. I say nothing. I can imagine her frustration that her pleas aren't working. My father taught me to speak when spoken to. My mother taught me to keep quiet. It will take more than desperation for me to comply. Until she starts to pose as a threat, I will do nothing in her favor. I have a bath drawn for you. I'm on order to help you, but if you don't want it, that's okay. Her words catch me off guard. A bath? Why would she do that for me? I could barely clean at home. I nod, unsure if she is looking, but I assume she is. My thoughts are confirmed as she says all right and leads me to an entirely new space. I feel the heat radiating from the surface of the steaming bath. My stomach bubbles in anticipation. The rarity of having a bath in my home was immense. She offers to help me, but I evidently say no. I don't trust this woman and don't know what her intentions are. I try and think myself through the situation, having never bathed on my own. I am entirely dependent on my parents, having never learned or been taught how to do anything in my life. I've been told so many times that blind people can't do anything on their own. I feel around with my feet, which eventually meets the edge of the tub. The hot water soothes my sore feet as I stand calf deep. I'm not sure how to get myself from a standing to a lying position, so I lean back while holding onto the shelves. I instantaneously lose my balance on the soapy bottom of the bathtub, falling backwards and hitting my back on the edge. A face-shifting ache follows after, as well a knock on the door. Are you okay in there? The woman questions in a benevolent tone. She insists on waiting for me outside, despite my desire for wanting her to leave. I don't know if she is genuinely here to help me or not. I wait a minute, saying nothing all the while. Author's note: have you guys ever tried to describe a color without using the name? Oh my gosh, it's so hard. Anyway, enjoy the new chapter, as I was saying. He continues, ignoring my dejected state as if it meant nothing. It doesn't matter, though. I am in complete submission to him as he stands over me. This will be your room. You will live here 24/7, and you won't tell a soul about your being my mate. His words are strict and curt. He bends down to my level on the floor, lightly yet firmly graping my shoulder in a display of dominance. Do you understand me? The skin-to-skin contact sends swirls of electric bliss through my body, his hot breath against my pale face. Despite this, my mind still seethes with fear and anger. I nod forcefully, to which he drops me and walks away. I'm left alone on the floor between the bathroom and bedroom. I stay in the same position for what feels like hours. I sit against the doorframe, thinking about what just happened. I'm going to live. In fact, I'm going to live in a completely foreign pack to the one I grew up in. My mind is wrung trying to accept what is happening, wondering still why I am here. Am I wanted here? Am I forced to be here? Nothing is making sense. Especially not the fact Alpha Alaric claims I am his mate, which I cannot believe yet, though. I can't explain the way his proximity makes me feel. I'm stuck in a room in a pack I know only rumors about. I now live under the law of the worst alpha I know of. but I do have a bathroom. This can't be worth it. I stand after a while, figuring that I'm alone, and I explore during this time. Beginning at the bathroom door, I work my way along the wall, using my hands. I bump into something that seems to be a wardrobe. I ignore it for now, continuing to work my way around the room. My hand grazes over another door. I pat the surface feverishly, trying to find the handle that'll lead me away. I do, and twist it open, followed by a gust of wind. The threshold of the door comes with a cold chill, leading me outside. A decently sized deck or balcony grants me the ability to spend time in the sun. Its rays beat down on my face, warming the surface of my skin against the crisp air. It reminds me of the times I was allowed in the backyard back at home. I re-enter the room, being sure the balcony doors are shut. I make note of the distance between the bathroom and the balcony, simply about 3 meters in length. Circling around the room, I find nothing else. It's empty and open, with nothing to do aside from sitting and keeping to my thoughts. Life gets boring after hours of existing in the position I'm in. Sitting on an unfamiliar bed in an unfamiliar room, I begin to feel restless. An uneasiness takes residence in the pit of my stomach, making my nerves act irrationally. Still, I sit. I sit for hours and wait for something to happen, which nothing ever does. Eventually, I scooted from a sitting position to a laying position, squeezing my body into a ball until I dozed off into oblivion. A knock on wood makes me stir in my sleep, gently wanting me back into reality. Becoming aware of my surroundings, I had to relive the last 48 hours all over again. The door creaked open, the prior woman peeking inside. She set up a tray of food for me, explaining the meal of today's morning. I thank her, but she does not leave. "Would you like me to stay?" she asked, as if she would be delighted to. Fear of saying no mixed with the guilt that would come along with it coaxed me into agreeing to eat with her. I only nodded. She retrieved a second plate for herself, and we ate in silence. Admittedly, the food I was given was very tasteful, the bacon especially. "What's your name?" I ask, stumbling over my words. I want to find out as much about this person as I can while still being too nervous to do so. She seems happy that I've inquired her, despite me only doing it in fear. She keenly replied back, "Elena, I've never heard such a pretty name." Not too long after, Elena leaves me to my own devices once again. A few days have passed since I first arrived at the Sanguis Pack. Each day is the same. I'm woken by Elena with breakfast. Sometimes we eat together, sometimes not. She comes in at dinner, and then again at supper. We eat together at least once a day. Sometimes she just visits to keep me company. She tells me about the pack here and there, but we mostly sit in silence. It becomes a relief to have somebody I know here. "Dinner time," she states audibly as she enters the room. A clubhouse for today, and so she sits next to me, 2 plates in hand. I now consider Elena to be my friend, one of the only friends I have ever had. When I was young, about 10 years old, I had a friend named Freya. She was nice to me, considering my condition. We played outside, played with dolls, and had blindfolded races. One day she just never came back. Now, Elena and I sit next to each other while we eat. She asks me why I stay here and what I do. She is patient with me, always asking things that I almost never respond to. I don't think she minds my quietness. She talks to me anyway. This question, though, puzzles me. You're not ill, you're able-bodied, and you have a lot to experience in this pack. I'm sorry for asking, but why not just go out and experience some things? Her words resonate with me. I'm not ill. I am able-bodied, and I have experienced nothing but bad memories my whole life. I want to tell her I can't leave, even if the alpha said I can. My stomach would bubble and my lungs would refuse to cooperate. The fear of being somewhere unsure seems worse than staying in this prison of a room. "You won't tell a soul about your being my mate." It stops me from saying anything further. If I overstep a boundary, the alpha can eliminate me without a second thought. The day is long and boring. Something sad comes with it, a feeling of loneliness. I haven't had many people in my life, therefore I'm not accustomed to feeling lonely. How can you miss something you've never had? I will myself out of bed, having memorized the layout of the room by now. This being my second time on the balcony since day 1, I sit in the uncomfortable chair set outside for me. The unfamiliar sounds of the Sanguis Pack engulf me, luring me closer to edge. There isn't much to hear, as I'm positioned above the garden, or so I'm told. A lone worker humming to himself quietly as he digs up soil. His pronged trowel, prone to loud scraping of the dirt, it drowns out his soft melodies. Tunes of songbirds play among the rustling of leaves in the wind. Their twitting back and forth molds into each other, forming a perfect symphony. They finish their song and fly away. The gardener stopped working, though his melodic carols continue. Louder this time, he croons in a soft tune, making my stomach swoon at its beauty. I push my chair closer, as close as it can get to the edge, so I can listen carefully to the seedsman. I close my eyes, dipping my head back to allow the music into my body. Smooth lows and hoarse highs. I wonder if he heard this song from somewhere else before, or if he made it himself. This time I stand, wanting to be closer or to hear better. I lean as far as I can into the open space, feeling the mellow breeze encase the upper half of my body. I glide myself further into the abyss. I could be flying right now and I wouldn't know the difference. It's working and the humming gets louder, closer. This doesn't stop me. I want to be even closer. I want to be right next to it. As far as I can, I reach my body over the railing further, and it works as I can hear him much louder. I have never heard such a beautiful tune or many songs at all. I go further and further, and I feel as though I'm flying, the wind around me pummeling through the sky, moving out of the way so I can soar. The summing stops, and a yell pierces my ears. Not even a second passes, and I feel my body collide with the ground. I feel nothing but the impact of my body hitting the solid ground. The music stops, and I hear a voice bustling at my side. I don't care for it. I only wanted to hear the music. I stop trying to pull my body off the ground. My body is too weak, or perhaps gravity is too strong. My head tops into the soft grass, and my consciousness fades. Word count 1603 grumbled muttering reignites my mind with the rest of the world. My reviving thoughts unable to piece together my current situation. My body floats as I inhale the intoxicating scent of the nearby alpha. My senses are overwhelmed in a familiar way. It happens every time he is around. Before I even try to fight it, my body reacts to it in a way I only imagine is the mate bond forcing me to him. I exhale as a way to retake my body from the bond. A croaked sound escapes my painfully dry lips as I do. It noticeably brings everyone's attention to my stirring consciousness, the alpha stepping heavily towards my waking body. What's wrong with you? I'm instantly bombarded with criticism from his gruff, irritated voice. The alpha stands over me fiercely, visibly angry at my actions. Again, I'm taken aback by his actions. His words spill in unprofessionalism, unlike how I ever imagined an alpha to perform. She didn't mean it. It was just an accident. Somebody from behind picks up, who I soon recognize as Aelina. You can leave now, Aelina. I have issues that needs discussing. Aelina is dismissed, to which she replies, yes, Alpha, then leaves. Being alone with Alpha Alaric makes me nervous, turning my head opposite the direction he stands in. I wish Aelina could stay. I would be so much more comfortable in his presence if she were here. Not that I trust either of them, but Aelina is the nicest a person has ever been to me. Do I constantly have to keep my eye on you? Were you trying to kill yourself? His speech makes me wince at how harsh it is. I mean, you get here mere days ago and already dove off a balcony. He's unrelenting. His anger takes another reform as he gets so close to me, yelling in my face as he grabs me and forces me towards him. Look at me. I do nothing. He sets me down gently, perhaps remembering through his frustration that I can't see him. This is the peak of his anger, which is relieving to my mind. Despite his outbursts being nothing less than terrifying, at least he didn't do anything worse. Even if I wanted to, I can't look into his eyes, I can't perceive him. Why did I even take you here? He questions, more to himself than to me. It becomes more and more evident that he wants nothing to do with me. I want to know the answer to that as well. Home seeming like a vacation compared to what living here is like. I don't want to be here, and he does not want me here. Why the hell am I here? I stutter over all of my words as normal, to hear the gardener singing more stumbling, an anxiety-driven condition. I forcing out a guttural sigh of frustration, unable to cleanly lay out a sentence. I hear a whine caught at the back of my head. a whimper of desperation that makes me sit up in a strike of fear. I catch it from the back of my mind, realizing I'm the only one that heard the whines. I fall back down in a plop as an excruciating pain throbs on my side. A pain I've felt before, though this time I did it to myself. I feel up my shirt to the side of my stomach, where a trickle of warm liquid forms. This time, it is me who yelps in pain as I touch the wound. I lift my shirt slightly, just enough to reveal the already stitched injury. As much as it hurts to touch, I run my fingers up the stitches with some already crusty, dried blood. Sitting up caused more blood to spill, likely staining the bed under me and the clothes attached to me. I still feel the Alpha's powerful presence over me, probing his eyes along my injured body. He says nothing and no longer seems angry. He seems as bipolar as my mother, if not more. "Allow me," he says in an undertone, almost annoyed. He takes a wet cloth in his hand, wringing it. I quickly move my own hand to cover the wound, wanting no more closeness than what already is. His hamdi clenching the wet cloth drops to his side, watching me force away from him. "Elena," I say without hesitation. She replied with an MHM, but I'm nervous to ask about what's been on my mind. We sit for a few anxious minutes before I decide to say anything else. Does the Alpha have a Luna? It's difficult to contain the weird emotion that has been making my stomach bubble for the past couple of days. "Not yet," she says, but I can tell there's more. He found his mate a few months ago, but they haven't marked each other yet. So, technically, she isn't Luna yet. Her words awe me. He found his mate months ago. I feel a pit fall in my stomach, which annoyed me further. I don't care about Alpha Alaric, and I'm still not even sure if I was his mate in the first place. Her words cut right through me, though I know they shouldn't. I feel jealous over something I don't even want. I know he would never be a good mate, and I don't want him as one. But that doesn't stop the twinge of the mate bond that blooms jealousy and other feelings deep in the back of my mind. Soon after, she leaves me to sift through all of my concerns alone. She doesn't know anything about me or my mate. I decide to ignore everything that has happened up to now and continue to grow more independent. Without knowing, Elena's friendship has helped me tremendously to do already. I will myself to a peaceful sleep, forgetting just about everything that displeased me. Almost everything. Elena, as per usual, wakes me up for breakfast. She says she can't eat with me this morning, but she'll be back later to keep me company. I agree, planning to get out of this room the moment she's back. I feel around my plate, forking in food every once in a while. Today, breakfast is a mouth-watering meal of pancakes and fruit. I assess my body, grateful that I'm gaining weight because of my new diet. Once I finish, I push the plate aside, making my way around the room to find the balcony. This time I'm hesitant to sit close to the edge due to the incident which led to my injuries. I sit, feeling tranquility from being surrounded by the freezing wind. It howls through the trees, looping itself around the branches around me, stealing my thoughts away. This time I don't get intrigued by anything specific, I just feel. I feel the kiss of sunlight warm my cheeks as it breaks through the thick layer of cumulonimbus clouds every so often. I feel the chilling breeze against my scalp, blowing my hair to the front of my face. I feel my feet against the concrete terrace floor, how they almost freeze to the surface. I imagine the sound of the wind chimes from my home, from their spot hung from the overhang in the backyard. I hear their clinks and their lingering melody in the wind. The only real serene moments I can remember have those chimes in the background, an omen of peace. I wish I had them with me to make this moment official. I would stand up and dance along with the wind as it forces music through the chimes, but I don't, and all I have left is the memory of the chimes far, far in the distance. A shout pulls me from my deep connection with the earth. "What do you think you are doing out here?" Another shout. Their voice is dragged away from me by the wind, their sound unrecognizable. "Emmy," I quietly question into the air. "Yes, Monet, you cannot be out here again. This time I know whose voice it is." Their wrathful tone is embedded into my mind. I realize they are also outside on a balcony, probably the same level as mine. It's far away at the end of the building. Today he is angry, which strikes a fear in me, and I pull my legs to my chest tight. "Stay exactly where you are." They shout one last time before disappearing. Mere seconds later, a body comes barreling into my room, out onto the balcony, and abruptly grabs my clothed arm. I thought I told you never to do anything dangerous again. He seethes, growing angrier as I shake my head no. He didn't say that, in fact, he barely spoke a word to me since the time I've been forced to live in his estate. How do you think I feel when I come outside to see you on another ledge? You're lucky I decided to use my terrace for once, or else you'd likely be dead. He shouts even louder this time, his grip over my fragile arm tightening. I thought he was done being angry and rude. I thought he would leave me alone. You'd probably feel good if you saw me dead. I want to say you and your Luna would want that. I almost gasp at the thoughts racing into my mind, not feeling like they're my own. As if another mind was inside of me, forcing me to hear their own thought. Nearly being enticed by the irrational thoughts to break out in a temperament, I force my mind off. I clear my head, thinking only for myself and in the moment. I don't understand what the alpha wants me to say, so I keep quiet, which seems to upset him even more. He yanks on my arm, dragging me back into the room, away from the comforting cold breeze. I hear him fumble around with something, a click, jingle, then it's gone. I realized he had just locked the balcony door with his keys. I'll never be allowed out there again. I move into a saddened state, knowing I can't object to his actions. I stand there, unknowing of what to do now. You are not to go on another terrace again. His low voice next to my reddened face from the cold sends hot air up my cheek. Yes, Alpha. I whisper with the hope he doesn't hear me, not wanting to anger him further. I feel blessed when the door opens for a second time, ripping us out of this angry mess. I can tell it's Alina by her feminine steps, which stopped as she entered the threshold. She says nothing, yet her presence is known. The alpha lets his grip on my arm go, parading out of the room. Word count 1090 Alina waited as I showered and dressed, being considerably patient for how long I was taking. I enjoy finishing this act on my own. I've been getting used to it more and more as the weeks pass by. We go outside for a walk. It's cold, so I'm wearing a large, oversized jacket that extends to my thighs. It keeps me warm without needing to be zipped due to its sheer size. We walk together down the streets of the Sanguis Pack, making our way into town. It doesn't take long, as everything is considerably close by here in this pack. Being a bigger pack with only one town, the streets are bustling. Unlike the Silver Rock Pack, this one does not have large roadways. I can tell without seeing that the architecture differs drastically from my home pack, despite being in the same vicinity. The community here must be quite different. I haven't had the chance to interact with another aside from Alina and the Alpha. We make our way into a little shop, the door clinking as we enter. I feel around the shelves, making sense of what are small, handmade knickknacks. Most of them consist of wood, straw, and other earthly resources. My hand lands atop an object made of rush weeds, which I almost immediately recognize. A Bridget's cross, I state aloud, feeling the workmanship of the almost perfect Bridget's cross. I recognize the pattern of the squared-off center, being one of my favorite holiday traditions. Crafting Bridget's crosses has always been an easy task, even with my blindness. That is why Imbalk has always been my favorite holiday, for I can partake in the festivities of the day. Alina agrees, and we walk around a bit more before making an exit. She makes note on the sky being open today, and how cold it is despite that. She guides me into another store, where the smell is a mollifying tint clad throughout the atmosphere. Alina lets go of me to allow me to make my own way around. She encourages me in almost every way to become independent, which I love. It's a clothes shop, she extends, for my benefit only. We're going to buy you clothes since you don't have any of your own. At first I perk up, liking the idea of having something for myself, then comes guilt. I feel guilty for wanting something that I haven't gotten for myself. I almost refuse, but Alina cuts me off to say, "Oh, feel this one, isn't it soft?" She rubs a fabric against my hand to let me know where it is. I feel it, not wanting to let go. I agree with her. It's the softest thing I've ever felt. I turn back to the hangers of clothes, not really knowing what to look for. I feel around, many different types of materials coming in contact with my skin. Want to try it on? The storekeeper questions, obviously to me. I feel my cheeks begin to burn with an embarrassed hint, not sure how to respond. I nervously open my mouth, feeling Elena's steps wander nearby in the store. They give me courage, remembering how she tells me to be more independent. I say, yes, please, trying to push my voice out to sound confident. It ends up sounding shaky and forced, though I still feel good for trying. Once I'm in the closed-off dressing area, I sigh in relief of being alone. Not even sure of what article of clothes I have draped over my arm, I steadily take my clothes off to try it on. I feel the whole surface of the item. It's a long jumpsuit with a comfortable, soft material. Once it's on, I push out of the dressing area and find Elena. The jumpsuit is too long for my legs and baggy in areas it probably shouldn't be. Either way, Elena exclaims aloud that she likes it, and I should definitely buy it. It makes me uneasy to think of owning it, as back home my mother made it clear that everything I have is hers and hers only. I like the idea of my mother seeing me have something that is entirely mine and not hers, so I nod to Elena with a slight smile on my face. Elena has a pile of various clothes I didn't try on, but I agree to buy anyway. She says they will all look amazing on me, and well, I've never felt amazing in anything before, so I simply agree and hope she is right. We make our way to the lady at the desk to buy the clothes when I realized I don't have money to pay for them all. I suppose she sees the look on my face, don't worry. It's a favor from the alpha. A favor. We begin to make our way out of the shop, weaving in and out of the hanging booths of clothes. I bump into one of the shelves of clothes, feeling a satiny material that slips over my hands. It stops me in my tracks, forcing me to stay and grab fistfuls of the material. Elena sees this, appearing next to me in the aisle. I want this, I say, going back to the time I felt this same material in my mother's wardrobe. The material is cool to the touch, slipping right out of my grasp. A white slip dress. She advances, taking it in her hands. I nod frivolously, notifying that this is what I want. If there is anything in this store I want, it's this white silk dress that my mother would have never let me wear. All right, then. She takes the dress and pays for it, which finally makes me happy about my spending. A smile spreads wide on my face as we pass the threshold, out into the sidewalks. The guilt leaves my body, and I'm left with a radiant feeling. I walk a little faster, and my posture is just a little bit straighter. Word count 1017. I wear clothes that Elena picked out from the store. I put on baggy, wide-legged pants and a t-shirt I only hope matches. I like the feeling of my attire. It makes me feel elevated and confident. The clothes feel good against my freshly washed skin, and I decide I want to do something new today. I was hoping Elena would visit me while I'm eating, but when there is a knock on the door, I can tell it's not her. It's the same woman that has been bringing me food for the previous few days. She's nice, but I miss Elena. I'm not sure what she has been doing, but I'm told she'll be back soon. I've been sitting in my room, passing time. I've had many hours to think over everything that's happened since I arrived here, but still, I have yet to come to any conclusions. One thing I know for sure is the mate bond between Alpha Alaric and me is getting more intense the longer I am around him. I decide it's time to get up and explore how capable I actually am. I stand, calculating the 10 steps it takes to get to the door, then another 45-50 to get to the stairs. There are 28 stairs which, with the help of the railing, I safely make my way down. It's before lunch and I want to get my own food today, something Elena and I did sometimes. We'd walk to the estate's dining area, where there are multiple tables set array in a large room. I sniff around, catching the scent of something definitely worth eating. I follow it through an extravagant hall. I can feel how big it is due to the slightly dense sound of my footprints. They echo through the empty hall, with all the people in the estate and no one is around. My arms extend to either side of my body, being sure I don't bump into anything. I make a slight turn, feeling a large door frame hallow the wall. The smell is stronger, letting me know I've almost arrived. I focus on the food, not even realizing I'm almost sprinting towards the source. I stop at another door and I can tell this is my destination. I remember the feel of the expensive walls when Elena and I were here last time. I push the door open, stepping within the bounds of the room. I can tell there are others in the room as I hear hushed chatter. Still, I focus on the scent of the food, slowly walking around inconspicuously. "Hello, I don't recognize you. Would you like some breakfast?" The voice takes me by surprise. A female cook appears next to me. I accept, saying yes, please. She tells me to sit, and I do after a minute of searching closely for a table and chair. I take this time to go over how to get back to the room, memorizing the patterns of my steps, to always know how to make my way here and back. I feel someone take the seat next to me, delicately placing themselves in the chair. For the second time, I'm questioned about my presence in the Sangui's pack. "I've never seen you around before. Are you visiting?" The professionalism in her voice intimidates me, my natural instinct to agree with her. A small yes is all I can muster, her aroma never dulling. She smells of sweet citrus, a freshly peeled orange. I have to admit, her scent is quite soothing. I can tell. "You don't look like you're from this territory. It's refreshing," she says, again in a friendly tone. My previous confidence is almost all gone, now being faced with a real situation. I never anticipated this kind of conversation. When I don't say anything else, she continues. "My name is Genevora. What's yours, child?" She says in a motherly tone, but she seems nothing older than 25. "My name is Monet." My hushed voice piques her interest, asking for the reason I am so nervous. "I may soon be your Luna, but you don't have to be scared of me." My cheeks burn, her words make me dizzy. She seems as if she has no emotion in her voice, only formality and professionalism. "Luna, this is the woman who is going to bear my apparent mate's mark." I immediately feel uneasy, mixed emotions fleeting their way up and up. My eyes focus, and all I see through the blood and fur floating in the sky is a beast the size of the sun, a dusty timber hue I couldn't have ever imagined in my dreams. It stands over me, teeth the size of daggers showing in a scowl. Their eyes ablaze, they meet my own, a desolate soul lying beneath. I don't care move a muscle, accepting that I have lost. Despite my behemoth body already on its side, I expose my neck further, submitting to him. I look all around with my new set of eyes, the damp grass under me so bright it looks like it's glowing. My legs stock full of fur, all four of them. A stark white coat covers my entire body, something I now know what it looks like. This moment of realization takes me away from the reality of my situation. I really do have a wolf, and I'm capable of shifting. The moon truly granted me this ability, and I've always had it. My wolf has been in hiding her entire life, never gaining the courage to reveal herself to her other half. Now, meeting her for myself is not at all what I expected it to be like. We're bleeding out and wounded by our mate nonetheless. He is the reason she decided to front. He drew her out of me in desperation. And we end up like this. She is the instinctual, primal version of me, and she is why I have been feeling the effects of the mate bond. His eyes pierce mine, taking my attention away from the scene around us. His golden gaze roams my body, almost mimicking the pain I feel. Being so close to him right now and inhaling his scent is easing the pain, though I doubt that is his intention. My submission forfeits my wolf to retreat, my body twisting and breaking back into place. I feel myself as I lessen into a human, weakened by my injured state. My body is bare, exposed to the freezing winds. No longer having a fur coat to keep me warm, I begin to shiver on the damp ground. My eyes are shut, and when they reopen, everything is back to how it is supposed to be. Beside me, Alaric shifts back into his natural form, like myself. Through the pain, I feel the warmth of his hands swoop under my legs and back, lifting me to his chest. He sifts through all of the innocent watchers with my aching body, not saying a word. The skin-to-skin contact of both of our bare bodies makes me feel like I'm floating, tingles dispersing all over. I know he feels the same, and it makes me wonder what he is thinking about in this moment, if he has any thoughts at all, or if he merely let his wolf instincts take over, the same as myself. My body is more numb than not. The alpha's gentle electricity is the only reason I know I am still awake. I hear the small crowd of bystanders around us moving out of the way as he walks with my aching body in arms, all eyes on us. A low, threatening growl guts from the bottom of his throat as a warning to the people watching the alpha, and I unfold. If any sound was made, I would have heard it. Everybody is dead silent, their breaths all hitched. I feel my wolf in the back of my conscious mind, her pleading whines telling me she feels the mate bond too. She makes me wonder if he is thinking about how he almost killed me, and if he cares. He could have, but he didn't, yet the thought still makes me feel sick. I wake up alone in the healer's den, my body retching with soreness. I don't need to stop and think about why I'm here, as it renders in my mind immediately. I'm unsure how long I've been here, but I assume not long. There are a few faded scents left in the room, though Alaric's isn't one. If he was here, he clearly didn't stay long. Despite my obvious loss, I can't help but think about other things. I truly have a wolf, and she can even see when I shift. After 20 years of being totally blind, I have an outlet to explore a new world. I'm not sure if this makes me happy or scared, but for the first time since I've explored new things, I am grateful I cannot see some parts of the world. Not only that, but I finally experienced the visualization of the color white. Something that is incredibly important to me, as I've been criticized my entire life of being too much of it. I know I'll never know what I look like, but at least I can see from my wolf's eyes what the world looks like. The pack healer enters, checking up on my body. She tells me I've been here since morning, and it's now 9 p.m. Aside from my obvious soreness, I'll be okay. You can go home, Monet, she says kindly, leaving the room. If only I could. I lift my legs off of the side of the bed, pushing myself off. I'm utterly unaware of what I'm supposed to do now, as I usually have somebody near to aid me. TWP months ago, I would have never even thought about doing anything for myself. Now, I decide it's time to go out on my own. Without waiting on somebody to come and save me, I find the exit for myself. Like last time, the brisk wind greets me as I step out into the open. It's even colder than it was this morning, shivers dispersing across my body. I walk on the pavement in the direction I believe to be the pack house, though I am still unsure. I can't say I didn't deserve to be left here to fend for myself, because I did have it coming, thanks to my wolf's outburst of emotions. I think her experiencing the mate bond to have it ripped from her by the sanguine pack, Luna, was enough for her to front and take everything out on the one that started it all. Alpha Alaric. I feel helpless on the coldness of the night, my body growing colder the longer I'm exposed to it. I've been fighting off my wolf's desire to come out again, being deprived of experiences the world for 2 decades. Her survival instincts are kicking in, pleading to help me in this moment. I'm not sure why she didn't come out long ago, the times I needed someone to defend me. Nobody was there when I was back in my home pack, not even my wolf. If I'm honest, today's event just proves how little I have left to lose. I give in, allowing her to take full control of our body. Word count 1153, I'm welcomed with pain as my body congeals itself, growing new bones and turning into a new creature entirely. At first, the pain of shifting is too much to bear, and I keep in a ball on the ground. After a few minutes of getting used to, the pain fades and I get up. Flashes of life appear before me as I blink my eyes open. For the second time in my life, I'm blown away by the capability of sight. Each blade of grass stands still in the gleam of the moon. Drops of water shine against them in the darkness, my eyes focusing on the minuscule details of each and every piece. All around me are scattered houses, close together along the paved path in the center. I decide to continue the way I'm going, hoping to remain unseen. The slight glisten of the moon lights the open area, allowing me to keep going. Every so often, I hear the voices of others, conversing after curfew. I don't want to think about what would happen if they're caught by their ruthless Alpha at this time. Since I've been here, Alpha Alaric has met me with his cold, hateful nature, but also his empathetic and slightly gentle behaviors. Each time I am in his presence, it's unpredictable how he will treat me in the next moment. I make a left into an opening of the trees, where the light can hardly reach. My already strained eyes squint, though the darkness is too much. I close them completely, listening to the way I move through the forest. I don't only listen to make my way around, but I feel it. I feel the presence of the trees around and in front of me. I know where they are without needing to see them. My pace quickens, and I'm now in a full sprint, the wind blowing across my face in a manner I've never quite felt before. My body shoots left and right. The vibrations beat from the pads on my 4 feet, rushing to the top of my clear mind. They pulse in sync with my heart, giving me directions of where to go. I feel into the soils of the earth, absorbing the blueprints of nature. Every bush pulses into the ground and into me. Every rock, every dead log, I can see where they are without opening my eyes. I'm swallowed by the free feeling of running with no direction, the way of defiance my body has longed for my entire life. Everything is new and fascinating, bringing me an intrigue I never thought was possible. I want to absorb information about every little being around me. I want to communicate with the moon. I want my spirit to align with the wholeness of the earth, the goddess Gaia as my savior. I tread against the power of the oncoming wind, pushing forward. The dry leaves crackle under my heavy weight. My feet kick up, plunging me faster into the thickened layer of trees. Everything is behind me as I make my way. Every sound is left in my absence. The blossoming scent of something pure in the dead of autumn is what compels my running mind to slow down and think. I've never felt a freedom like the rush I have currently. Nobody is dictating me or watching what I do. I can just be myself, or rather, discover who I am instead. I open my eyes once again, being greeted by moonlight through an opening in the trees. The scent is ahead of me, a speck of life in the desolate lands of winter. A dead tree stood gnarled in its spot, hollowed at the base and clawing with its skeleton-like branches. A vine veins across the stem, climbing its way up on a lone branch. Blooms of early wisteria sprout from the vines, making the deceased tree look beautiful again. Few lone hanging flower bunches omit their sweet fragrance into the air. The presence of wisteria is ironic, a beautiful, flower-blooming vine so invasive and needy that it kills other plants around it. My eyes don't deserve to see such a naturally beautiful occurrence. The seasons collide against each other, the faith of spring washing away the hardship of winter's past. I reach to sniff the flowers, greeted with a tickle on my pink nose. The scent lulls me into a sense of security, desiring nothing more than the verity of this perfect moment. Puddles of half-frozen water gleam portraits of life, showing me more of the area around me. Crickets chirp and sync, singing to the hum of buzzing lightning bugs. Drops of water pedal off the leaves, falling into the frosted forest bed. Everything about this moment seems sacred, like the moon herself is telling me my destiny awaits. Wings of praying owls sway against the wind above. Rustles in the surrounding area play in my mind. Sounds that do not belong in the woods are heard in the distance. My mind becomes scattered. The cry of a lonely soul exists past the trees. Their lifetime of sorrow exposed to whoever is near, though I expect they remain unaware. An imaginary path is pulling me closer, coaxing me to investigate. I move, allowing the moon to take me where I need to go. An inkling in my stomach rises with anticipation, feeling a dire need to arrive at my destination. Another cry is erupts that grabs me at my core. My entire being feels for the wolf at the other end, now a mere field away. I stop where I'm at and just listen to the despair of their howls into the night, screaming for nobody to hear. Despite my protests, there's only one thing I think to do, as I am a werewolf, and this is my heritage. I lean into the intimate breeze, allowing it to carry my howls into the night sky. Our sounds intertwine, mixing in a beautiful melody of our entire beings. Our souls combine, and we share a moment of intimacy where we are wholly exposed to each other's misfortunes. The moment passes, and they cease their open expression, causing mine to follow. Anybody could be across this field. They could be a bloodthirsty rogue werewolf that is willing to kill me, though I don't feel threatened. Even sitting in my utter lack of being, I don't move. I just wait. Word count 1081 authors. Note: do you want to see a lyric's POV of the past events? I may have something in mind again. I'm sorry the chapters have been so spaced out recently. I've been having trouble with motivation. Now that I have a couple reoccurring readers, I'll try to get chapters out daily again. Thanks for your support. My eyes close to a crescent, gentle beating of the wind against my lashes. The moon illuminated the spines of dry leaves, their quiet rustles giving serenity to the forest's atmosphere. The night sky flooded in pinpoints, the stars of past wolves' souls piercing through the darkness. I have almost forgotten about the wolf in my vicinity and our moment of being linked as a pair. I realized true relaxation does that to you. It makes you forget, and you become a singularity of the future instead of the past. Distant sounds of a sulking wolf comes toward me. It pulls me back into the moment, to which I decide to flee. I follow the path to civilization, sprinting back into town. Before I exit the line of trees drawn between the forest and pack territory, I catch that enriching scent, letting me know I'm close to the estate. I can tell I'm here when I see the ginormous shimmer of the porch lights, shining over the leaves of grown-out ferns. I make my way closer to the property, deciding I should first shift back, not knowing how welcoming wolves are inside. I talk myself through the process, calculating in my mind where I have to go when I'm back in my normal state. It takes a few tries before I get it, working up the power and leverage over myself to force my body into a wreckage of pain. My bare skin stings from the suddenness of the cold. Nevertheless, I make my way directly toward the front doors. It takes a minute of stammering around, but I eventually make it, whipping open the brass door handles. Having made this trek a few times before with Elena, I remember which direction to head towards. As swift as possible, I make my way up the curved stairs, to the right, down a hall, and into my room. Despite having just felt the best feeling in my entire lifetime, the relief that floods through my body when I enter a completely familiar area is undeniable. The door closes behind me at the will of my own hands, probably leaving dirt in my place from my time outside. All at once, the aftermath of my adventure hits me and my face is left in a twist of anguish. Small tears start in the corners of my eyes, forming heavier and harder the longer I hold it in. Finally, they all come out in a sigh. A single sob escapes, which opens the gates to all of the emotions I've bottled over my lifetime. My first time being truly free in my 20 years, being alone and free and independent, in an uncontrolled atmosphere filled with life. It overwhelms me, shock of finally experiencing what everybody preaches about. I lean against the door, my body unable to support itself. I slide down with my hands against my face, sobbing into them. Being captured by an alpha has been just another punch at my devastating life, but I did not expect my freedom to be the first time I cried since I was a child. When I think about it, it seems fitting. Hurt and destruction has been the normality of my life, not knowing anything, but this has been something different, something I can actually control. A place where I can be happy when I want to. I can decide for myself what I do. My tears lull me into an altered conscience, my eyes beginning to feel heavy and my head drooping to my knees. I feel peaceful as my sniffles subside into low breathing, and my heart slows to a resting pace. The last thing I noticed before I slipped into a different state was the same scent from the woods, a soothingly deep, sweet scent. I stir awake, my head lifted slightly by my fluffed pillow. My exposed body lies across the bed, all of the covers beneath me. A cloud of confusion blankets my mind as I try and piece together how I got here. I'm taken out of my mind as there is a knock on the door, followed by light footsteps. I quickly cover myself, permitting them to enter. "Elena," I say as I take in her scent that pools into the room with her. I spring up in the bed, excited to have her around again. She greets me with the same energy, audibly happier. I hope her time off wasn't as bad as my time in her absence. I was honestly unsure if I'd see her again as punishment from my recent disobedience. As of right now, it feels like I've been left unpunished. I wonder for a second if anyone even knows, but with the amount of pack members watching as I tested their alpha's capability, the entire population must know by now. I beat around the topic as we converse, waiting for her to mention it first. I feel ashamed of my outburst, despite how good I've been feeling since. I know this won't be the last of what I hear from the alpha. He will indefinitely have something in mind for my penalization. When my wolf realized she was sitting next to our mate's Luna, she completely took over and ran. Then, when we were met with our mate's anger, her little heart broke, and all that was left was her instinctual rage. I believe she truly hated her mate for taking someone else in her place, in that moment. The thought clenches my heart, and hers too, I'm sure. I know she can feel my sadness for her. Elena's voice trails off, the silence in the room coaxing me to speak. I was dying to tell her about my night, and so I did. I blurted, almost hoping she didn't hear. I never told her about my inability to shift, but I know now I'm wholly able. I'm sure you heard by now. I continued, telling her everything. She listened to my story, stopping me to ask questions every now and then. You really challenged him like that? She asked in awe. I barely believed it myself. I just nodded. You're fearless, Monet. Word count 1094 authors note thank you to every single one of my readers. Last chapter, I hit 2K readers and 150 stars. I appreciate all of you three. Monet's POV. I'm at the west corner of the pack territory, watching as the men scavenge the forest for fresh catch. It's unlikely they will find any. I'm perched between a tree and some bushes, my white fur probably visible anyway. I managed to leave the pack house without anyone seeing, or at least I think I did. I followed the scent of the hunters to the west ends, the only place they are able to catch anything. Of course there are pack agriculturists, but hunters are active all year to find whatever they can. One man yells to the others, claiming they caught the scent of something. Many of them follow the trail slowly, keeping low and hiding in the brush. I follow the scent alongside them, watching as they prowl side by side. We travel like this for about a mile, the scent becoming more potent as we near the animal. It's a smell I'm not familiar with, though I haven't come in contact with many wild animals that aren't already dead. About 40 meters to my left, the men stopped moving and crouch in the cover of the long grass. Their low growls alert me, wondering why they would optionally give up their stop, so their prey would know they're there. I look where their eyes are targeted, seeing a majestic animal with antlers bigger than my entire body. It sips on a small puddle made by the rain, left from past days' poor weather. Its short brown fur coats its entire body in a sleek manner that will make it easy to pierce. It shines in the slight glisten of the sun, fascinating me further. My breath hitches as it looks up in my direction, eyes bulging and terrified. It saddens me that it sees me as something to be scared of. I nod at the animal, as to vow to never hurt it or anything like it. I know it doesn't understand, but it relieves me anyway to think it no longer fears me. It gradually moved its head away from my direction, back down to the puddle. I hear a sudden snap a few meters to my left, realizing it was the hunters. The men advance, inching closer to the beautiful lone moose. Before I know it, they're lunging at the behemoth animal, aiming for its long, exposed neck. I sprint to it as well, needing to arrive before the hunters. I yell to the other wolves, scream to them to stop, but only barks and growls of my wolf make it through. They see me now, their lunges at the moose rendering useless. I frighten it into running before they could attack, though two of the wolves chase it through the forest. The rest stay in their position, one rising up over me, visibly angry that I spoiled their catch. I should be scared, but all I feel is happy that I saved the moose's life. All the wolf does is glare at me, so I take that as a note of absence and I run back to the pack. Alina and I eat side by side. It's been a few days since the incident, and I've heard nothing since. I've been trying to play it quiet by staying in my room. The adrenaline of risking my life for a moment of satisfaction has wore off, and all I've been doing is worrying about my place in Alaric's pack. Alina praises me for standing up for myself. I wish she knew it wasn't me that was in control. She gives me too much credit for the brave actions of my wolf. Monet. Alina breaks the silence of our meal. I should have told you earlier, but... She trails off, which backs my heart into a dark corner. My stomach whirls, unaware as to what she has to say to me. The Alpha has asked you to a dinner with him and the Luna. Actually, it's mandatory. You have to go. At this, my heart stopped completely. I push away my meal, my appetite gone and my stomach full of anxiety. Sweat forms around my forehead, an eternal nervousness settling over myself. I can't face them both again, not after the embarrassment of being forced into submission. I'm not sure what will be discussed, but it sounded important. Possibly a punishment for what? What happened? I can't imagine sitting so close to the Alpha and his so-called Luna at the same time. Nevertheless, Alina urges me to be prepared for the dinner. She says it will be tomorrow, in front of Alpha Alaric, Genevora, and the prior Alpha and his Luna. The fact that Alpha Odon and Luna Hecate will be there makes me even more nervous. Odon is said to be the most ruthless Alpha to live. He begun the war between the North and the South. He left Alaric a major legacy to carry out as the next Alpha of the Sanguine Pack. I'm unsure of what will happen, though I feel like I deserve worse. I challenged the Alpha in front of his entire pack, and all I need to do is have a discussion. It will be okay, Monet, Elena says from the bed. I forgot she was here. I'm so in my mind that I didn't realize anyone was around anymore. I face her and nod my head, agreeing. Whether I believe it or not, I'm still unsure. Word count 940 Alaric's POV. My voice reverberates off the tall porcelain walls as Owen and I converse about future reparations to the pack. The eastern borders will need a rejuvenation before spring. He nods at my observation, complete concentration on my orders. Owen has always been devoted to his position as my loyal beta, following blindly to meet all of my demands. As soon as possible, Alpha, though our strongest Omegas are now all mated and have retired for the winter, Owen prods at me as if I'm not already aware of the members of my own pack. Alpha or Omega, we all have a job, whether they like it or not. Owen earns a disapproving glare from me, as he should already know my solution to what he's suggesting. Just get it done, Owen. My voice comes out stronger than I intended, likely sending my beta into an overdrive. Yes, Alpha. He nods curtly, his presence evaporating almost immediately after. That is just one of my worries put behind me, the rest still left unattended. Just as I am about to make my leave, I hear barreling footsteps thundering through the corridor. I quickly hop from my place, curiosity piquing my mind. I peer out of the door, catching a glimpse of what looks like a mouse running from a cat. Her snowy blonde hair blows against her back as she hastes forward, coiled strands astray as the wind takes a hold of her. The gloss of her pale skin makes me shiver involuntarily. I know it's the mate bond drawing my attention to her, but I can't help it. An annoyance tugs at me at the mere sight of her, particularly due to the fact I will never have a connection with her. She wears long, flowy pants that are obviously too big for her, swaying as she moves, and a perfectly fitting yellow top. It's obvious she's aware of her surroundings somehow, though her uncoordinates still causes her to crash forcefully into a pillar. All I can do is watch as her face, pain-laced with sadness, collides with the hard surface, knocking her down. I feel her pain in my own head, a second of empathy flashing over me. Immediately, she pushes back up in determination, her face now displaying only what can be placed as primal anger. Once I realized where she was headed, though, those emotions are squandered. I stomp headstrong after her, slow-paced at first, but her buttermilk aroma left in the air sent me into a full-on sprint. The halls become a blur as the only thing I'm focused on is her body, rushing away, unaware of my presence behind her now. I push through the doors just as she did moments before. I take in her demeanor, the scared look plastered across her face. As much as I wanted to disregard her feelings and allow myself to be an alpha, I truly feel hurt by her expression. Pack members begin to gather, the unraveling scene putting immense pressure on how I react in front of my subordinates. They watch as she battles to escape. Between myself and her, their eyes peer. The growing distance between us unsettles me and I'm backed into making a decision. A loud, forced growl booms through the area, my snarl stopping her dead in her place. I see her body tremble lightly, her back still turned to me. I make my way across the lawn of the pack house, still keeping a distance between us, but enough to catch her if she attempts to run off. I growl a low, throaty growl which evokes her to turn to me. She follows the sound of my anger, her head snapping directly towards me. She doesn't seem to be fully aware, and I can tell this is her wolf's rage, my little mate too shy to speak, let alone challenge me. Her almost non-existent white brows arch together in a distressed manner, her eyes wide like a puppy dog. She stares into nothing, yet I feel more in the spotlight than ever before. Her crystal clear eyes a shade of blue that shouldn't be allowed to be seen by the naked eye. Her wavy hair messily jumbled by the commotion, a single stray strand falling seamlessly in front of her face. Her mouth opens slightly agape, pouted to match the rest of her forlorn face. Despite her frantic expression, her stance tells me she is aware. She stands boldly straight, fists at her sides and head cocked. I take note of her demeanor, suddenly changing from one of a cowering puppy to an almighty wolf. Her face is now hard and detached. She scrunches her nose as a sign of aggression, though it looks hardly threatening. Her cracked lips press into a firm line, making their full form appear indignant. If it were not my mate standing across from me, I might see them as a threat to my pack. I release another growl, harsher than the last, expecting her to back down and submit. Refusing to take my gaze away from her depthless blue eyes, if even possible, a cloud glazes over them. I could have imagined it, but I swear I catch her falter and she frowns for just a moment. Her typical shy and scared demeanor disappears completely, telling me I'm likely face to face with her wolf right now. An eruption of her throat catches me off guard. A sonorous snarl comes from the lowest, angriest depths of her chest. Her eyes fill with a rage I've seen but once or twice before. I'm struck in the heart by the loathe I see in her eyes. My heart quickens erratically, warm sweat forming around my body. I don't want to advance on her further. I pray by the bastard of the fucking moon she backs down before I have to force her down. In this moment, I'm more grateful than ever she cannot see me. For if she stared into my eyes with that look of hatred she has on her now, the mate bond would send me crumbling. Undoubtedly, I must stop her before she gets out of hand. My pack will never see me as less than anything but an unwavering leader. I meet her snarl with a greater one, slowly closing the gap between us. I'm a few steps away when I make a jolted bark, her head snapping in my exact direction. Now she is straight in front of me, looking me head on. She doesn't take lightly to my warning, growling fiercely back at me. In a rapid movement, she squeaks out another thunderous bark and not so gracefully leaps into a shifted state. I don't have time to observe as I immediately take action and shift, her attack on me doing nothing to render me damaged. As a highly trained fighter, I topple her over with ease, though she continues to thrash at me. If my damned pack members were not watching me intently, I would never be handling my mate in such a way. I get a hold of her neck, squeezing with a dominant growl. Her quiet whimper almost makes me let go and walk away, but I continue with my method. It stings my entire body to be touching her in such a vicious manner. She goes limp, stretching her bulbous neck to expose more to me. She submits. Authors note there will definitely be more to Alaric's POV. I had to break it into 2 chapters so it wouldn't be too long. Should be up tomorrow. Word count 1275 Alaric's POV. I let go. Obvious blood around us, and I stand over her. She doesn't dare move. Her fur is of the purest white, just as her human hair is. It shines in the dull morning rays, ironically beautiful compared to the scene that just unraveled. I watch as her eyes gawk back and forth, focusing in and out in an odd way I've never seen her do before. Her pink nose covered in blood and dirt, I see it transform before my eyes, back into the button nose of her human form. I shift as well, still standing above her. Her body is now exposed, as is mine. Nudity is nothing new to my eyes, but I can't help but stare at her. The contrast between the extreme paleness of her skin against the vibrant grass creates a captivating picture. Her curly hair entwine with the grass, making me almost jealous of its blades as it sways through the locks of her long strands. Her body lies in a ball, squeezed into itself to hide its most valuable places. I don't imagine my mate has much experience with nudity or being exposed. This satisfies me, as wicked as I know it is. Despite her state, I do not peer anywhere she wouldn't want to be seen. Being this close to her is enough. Gawking at her body would only make the bond worsen. I bend down slowly, feeling almost slow motion. Her nose and cheeks flush red from the cold, almost unnoticeable hairs on her arm upturning with goosebumps. Her skin hardens with the cold, making me act quickly. I pick her weakened body up into my arms, lifting her against my chest. My entire body explodes with a euphoria, tingles reaching every inch of me. Her scent is strong in my nostrils as her bare skin folds against mine. I walk her through the small crowd of people, growling lowly at the curious males. Nobody should be looking at my mate in such a vulnerable, injured state. Even if they are not aware she is my true mate. Her chest slowly rises and falls as I walk with her attached to my body. I can tell she is not sleeping, minor movements every once in a while. Her eyes draw open very slowly, almost looking directly into mine. I stop walking dead, staring into her eyes under the light of the sun. I know she can't see me, she doesn't even know what she's doing to me. Her lips part only slightly, inhaling lowly. I don't realize I'm not breathing until I see her take a breath and exhale a long, slow breath. Her eyes close as I inhale once more, trying to regain control of my own thoughts. Today is a hard day for the mate bond, her closeness only making it worse. We almost reach the healer's den without a word said, when her head nestles between my head and shoulder. I feel her gentle inhale, taking in my scent. I'm at the mercy of her will, in the most vulnerable position I could possibly be in, and yet I allow it. I feel deep in my stomach that the mate bond is climbing out of its initial start, becoming something I'm not allowed to possess. By now, I know she is sleeping, for she would be all but too shy and likely fearful to be this gentle and close to me. Because of this, I know it is best to leave her as I lay her resting body on the pack healer's bed. So I do, and I don't stay long enough to linger. My day is spent tending to pack needs. I resurrect the problems they bring to light and send people to fix them. Some I do myself. I realize how productive I've been compared to usual, using work as a distraction from the secret that is my mate. It's late evening when I receive a message about a meeting with my parents. An agitation forms quickly where an empty peacefulness once was. Nothing good comes from seeing my parents, and I doubt this encounter will be an exception. A small yet sleek house lies past the trees. Nothing quite as modern exists in my pack, my parents' house being an outlier to the others. I know they hate to be kept waiting, so I linger in the area for a bit until I knock on the door. My head aches before I even enter, knowing full well that they will have something to nag about. I'm greeted by a familiar Omega that works under my parents. She tends to their needs as they want her to. Right now, she cooks us a fine late dinner. Genevora is already there chatting them up on the couch. This isn't an unlikely scene. My parents have always loved Genevora's people-pleasing attitude. She notices me standing at the doorframe, her meek smile reaching her eyes as she shuffles to greet me. Her body is short and thin. It makes me think of Monet. They are stark opposites, looks and personality. Genevora holds a presence in every room she is in. Her personality is outgoing enough for everybody in my pack. She undoubtedly outshines as an involved leader. As for Monet, she's quiet, yet calculated. She might think I haven't noticed the way she can memorize a room in just one visit, but I have. Genevora wraps her left arm around my back, extending her neck to say "you're late" into my ear. At one time, her hot whispers would have made me feel something. Now, I pay no mind to her warm hand reaching up my back under my shirt. I walk to the table where the food has been set, everybody else following along. I take the end of the table, my father takes the head. It usually ends up like this, though not on purpose. He always needs to be in control of the situation, physically or psychologically. He cares too much about superficial acts, like the one in power always sitting at the head of the table. As a retired alpha, he's hard to oppose. Even though I am the current alpha, he has something I have yet to gain. He has a long list of accomplishments, some in a great book of history, and some I consider tyranny. Everything I have done has been in his words, and now I will mate Genevora for him too. I stare daggers at him from the other end of the table, unable to look away. The intensity in my stomach has refused to dissolve since this morning. It bubbles in my stomach, and I have a feeling I'm going to take it out on them tonight. A squeeze is felt on my thigh, which finally takes me away from my determined staring. Jen holds my knee, peering at me with a pointed look. No matter what I say, she knows me better than anyone. And no matter what I want to think, I can't deny that she is beautiful. Her ebony skin glows without ease, curly black hair shapes her face to look like a statue. If the moon cares about anyone, it definitely cares about her. I wish I could feel the same, though my parents' excessive need for me to be with her has ruined the possibility of anything real between us. I used to spend my days cursing the moon for not making her my true mate. I will do anything for my pack, including mark someone that is not my moon-assigned mate. Jen and I are undoubtedly close, even a perfect match. Of anybody, I wished it could have been her. I care about her, but I stopped loving her after our teen years together. And now that I met my mate, I do not desire her anymore. Let's get started, shall we? My mother speaks in a proper, curt manner. This is how I know she has something to say. She was taught to be a people person, just as Jen was. It is a necessity for the Lunas of our pack a facade to keep everyone's minds at ease. I much rather authenticity. No one says anything as we begin to eat, though there is an awkward blanket of silence. I cut through it, wanting to get to the point. Word count 1400 authors note this is the last chapter of Alaric's POV. I wasn't expecting to write over 4,000 words in his POV, but I'm happy with the outcome anyway. What do you guys think about Alaric's take on the events? Alaric's POV, all right. What do you want? I ask, knowing they know what I'm talking about. The look on Jen's face tells me she's aware too, yet nothing comes out. I feel my face redden in anger, my family knowingly setting me off. This is an often occurrence and they know it. They need to be political every second of every day is unnecessary. And now that they're retired pack leaders, they have nothing better to do. Tell me. I yell, slamming the utensils back on the table with a clatter. The glasses and plates shake for just a second. I now have their attention, my mother speaking first. Well, Alaric, you've been alpha for years now. She beats around the point, my patience already thin. I know what this is about, I want it out already. We all agree that it's time you and Genevora mate. She should officially become Luna. They said what I was expecting them to say. I stay silent, knowing this would come sooner or later. They're right. As much as I don't want to admit it, an alpha needs a Luna. It creates security and promise. Lunas are the comfort and stability of the entire pack. They're a ground for the alpha to fall on, to keep them a good leader and have strong pups to pass on the next generation of alphas. Her typically reverberant voice becomes gentle, Jen's hand still on my knee. Please, Alec, you know it's time. She would have mated me long ago if she could. Even being an alpha's daughter, she always wanted more. Her father is an ally to my pack, and even though our mating was never forced to unite, my parents expected it anyway. Jen's brother will become alpha soon, and she will become my Luna. Jen would be a perfect Luna, fulfill all of her duties and be a great leader, but I do not want her. Looking at her, I see Monet sitting in the empty seat beside her. Monet is a bit taller, a lot paler and thicker than her. She used to be very thin, but since being here she has gained weight, which makes me happy. I know she's not here, yet I still feel the effects of the mate bond. Every time I try and get closer, the more I realize Jen sits between us. Alaric, my father asserts in a firm voice. This time it really sets me off, seeing Monet's face in front of me. I stand, glaring at him. It takes my entire being to hold myself back from attacking him now. He would win if I did, though I don't care. I won't listen to him. As an alpha, I'm telling you that you must reign beside your Luna. His voice is low and daring, but so is mine. I hold my stance, still glaring at him. You are not alpha anymore, father. We stand, staring each other down. Jen, as expected, grabs my arm and whispers to me things that are meant to settle me. This only makes me angrier, and I pull myself away before I hurt her small frame. I show myself out, running out back further into the woods. It's now pitch black outside, nothing visible except for the open spots of moonlight. I shift as I run, speeding further and deeper into the forest. I run until I reach an open area, a small field in front of me. I reach the end of it, sitting myself down to feel the wind blow through my fur. I turn off all of my senses and allow the primal feelings of being a wolf take me over. The feelings of everything that happened today reach their limit, and I'm left in a mess of emotions. I suppress the fact that I almost killed my mate all day, but being alone in the forest with nothing but my thoughts is basically a death wish to myself. The morning starts off beautifully. A day of sun breaks the streak of typically bad weather. I know as I rouse from the bed that I won't be able to settle until after my meeting with Alaric and the former Alpha and Luna. I make my way into the bathroom before Alina even brings breakfast. I won't be able to eat anyway, the nervousness growing in my mind. I take a much-needed shower. The pouring of the scalding water eases me slightly. It doesn't stay long, though. The second I step out of the shower, all of my worrisome thoughts evade me once again. I am totally unsure of what might happen today, though I'm fairly certain it won't be pleasant. I still have hours until it's time, but I decide to be ready anyway. Alina eventually does make her way to my room, to which she insists on helping me pick my clothes. I sit back and let her raid the wardrobe, scattering possible outfits across my room. I tell her it's not that big of a deal, and I'm only going to apologize and be done, but she assures me that it will be greater than that. Alina reads into the meeting as a great gesture, as she's never been aware of something like this happening. She must be suspicious. Of course, the fact that I am the alpha's mate is still unknown to her. If they knew, everything would change. The pack would reject me as a weakness and possibly even a lyric for having such an impuissant mate. I think this may be the one. Elena sidles next to me holding an outfit. I run my hands over the fabric, a soft, thin material. As I wear the dress, it feels incredibly comfortable and breezy, though nothing I'd think to wear to a meeting. I fear the dress is so thin it may be exposing shapes of my body, leaving little to the imagination. Elena, this dress isn't revealing, is it? I question to her shyly, to which I receive a giggle. I understand that it's out of the ordinary to care about such superficial things, such as the exposure of one's body. Only children typically cover up, and even then, it's not always. People shouldn't care about exposure. I feel a rush of heat covering my cheeks, the thought of naked men and women strutting about, which is especially typical in my old pack. I'm not sure how common it is for people to roam exposed in the sanguine pack, but a part of it makes me jealous. My wolf growls in the back of my head, our mate flashing before both of us. She's protective over him, despite having no right to be. He cannot mate us, and we know this. Though she still takes her time on the subject of Alaric's undressed body. It's pale and yellow, it suits you. It looks comfortable, she replies, her voice joyous. She says nothing else. I nod, taking a seat next to her. We don't do much for the next few hours, simply talk and sit. Eventually, she braids a few strands of my wavy hair. They sit on either side of my face, my fingers interlacing with the entwined pieces. The sun is split center of the sky, beating straight down on my head. It warms me in between breezes, the chilly wind making me shiver. Owen, Alaric's too, interlocks his arm with mine. He guides me down a lengthy path in the wilderness, allowing me little freedom. He stops every time a jagged rock or tree root obstructs the path, directing me when to step higher. I appreciate Owen's kindness, though it's obvious he's never interacted with a blind person before. Still, I don't correct him, half out of politeness and half out of fear that he will be angry. We have nearly arrived. Owen comments in a dull manner. I don't respond to him, mostly because of the pit of anxiety that swashes in my stomach. I hope for my own sake that this doesn't last long. All you have to do is say anything they want you to say, I reassure myself. That's all I have to do, say what they want to hear. Owen stops, momentarily letting go of me so he knock on the door. As he does, the sound a deep, hollow knocking. It reminds me of the doors we had at home, the thud they made similar to now. The door opens and Owen helps me breach the door frame, trading me off with who I assume is a servant. The door closes behind me, Owen remaining on the other side. Hello, dear. I'm me, I work for the Alpha Odon. She greets in a warm voice, gently holding my wrist. I half-heartedly smile, nodding in her direction. I image her smiling back in her sweet manner. Without being rude, I take my wrist from me and place it at my side. I slide off the coat I've been given and me places it somewhere beyond my reach. This is it, I tell myself. I step forward, my bare feet stepping off the welcome mat and onto the hard wood floors. I can sense people are near, though I'm not sure where. I use my feet as a guard, stretching my legs in front of me, feeling with them so I don't hit anything. I slide along the floor, keeping my arms at my side. I wish to present the best side of me today, and that means being as independent as possible. There's low chatter in a separate room, and I decide that's where I'm headed. There are a mixture of scents in the air, but none of them are Alaric's, which makes my wolf frown just a little. I step into the next room, and I can tell that's where the voices are coming from. I present myself curtly, standing straight with my hands folded behind me. The prattling stops when they notice me standing before them, immediately unfolding to a stand to greet me. You must be Monet. I don't recognize the voices, but their scents are so powerful I can tell they are of a high rank. Alpha Odon and Luna Hecate. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to greet them back, so I simply lower my head in their honor. Come and sit, a womanly voice offers. They speak to me in a short tone, unforgiving and unallowing any type of solace. I do just as she says, slowly shifting myself through the room until I reach a seat. The pair pick up on their conversation from earlier, and I'm left to sit awkwardly on my own. I'm fiddling with my dry hands as I hear the front door open again. Muffled welcomes take place in the previous room, my curiosity piquing as I hear multiple sets of feet make their way closer. I know it's going to be him and her, yet still, my stomach is in knots. They're stood in the same place I was 10 minutes ago, the two on the couch stopping to welcome them. His rich scent invades the air, my lungs suddenly feeling suffocated. Mom, Dad. Monet. Word count 1213. I'm fiddling with my dry hands as I hear the front door open again. Muffled welcomes take place in the previous room, my curiosity piquing as I hear multiple sets of feet make their way closer. I know it's going to be him and her, yet still, my stomach is in knots. They're stood in the same place I was 10 minutes ago, the two on the couch stopping to welcome them. His rich scent invades the air, my lungs suddenly feeling suffocated. Mom, Dad. He guts out, almost painful to be around them. Monet. He addresses me gentler than his parents, his voice smooth and soft. I direct my head towards where his voice came from, my eyes stoically gazing straight ahead. Another scent mixes with Alaric's, the same sweet tangerine from the day in the cafeteria. My cheeks warm at the confrontation of hearing my name, the sound of my name being returned to me in a way that isn't harmful is a new concept, one that I have gotten used to. Since I reached Alaric's pack, not once have I heard someone say my name in vain. Hearing the alpha say it for the first time makes me grateful for having one. It makes me grateful being who I am and having the name I do, the way it sounds as it rolls off his tongue almost intoxicating. Hello, Alpha, I squeak out, my voice so tender it almost goes unheard. My face stays blank though, my lips resting in a thin line and my eyelids lazily open. My wolf rolls in the back of my head, thinking about the same thing I am. I've heard many things about the mate bond, but I never would have thought it would infatuate me with someone as quick as it has. It has only been a couple of weeks. I hear someone push off of the couch and stand, then say, "Let's move to the table, shall we?" Voices chime in to agree, everyone except me dragging themselves through the house. I stay seated until I presume everybody to be gone, then I rise to my feet in an instant. I do the same as before, slide my feet against the floor in front of me, making sure I don't bump into anything. I follow the direction I believe them to have gone. I take another step forward, then another and another. I've had loads of experiences out of my comfort zone, but this one definitely tops them all. Pretending to be completely independent as a blind woman in a foreign place, in front of two sets of powerful humans, pretty much beats anything. Just as I begin to feel confident in knowing my way around, I walk headfirst into a hard surface. Toppling and shattering glass follows after, making me jump out of my skin. My forehead stung for a few seconds but ultimately went away quickly. I stood in place, attempting to control my now rapid heart rate. If I didn't screw up already, I definitely have now. Me will take care of that. A low voice appears next to me, making their way to my side without me even noticing. My forearm prickles in tiny explosive kisses as he pulls me forward. "I'm sorry," I whisper, terrified that he will be angry with me. He doesn't, though. He only walks me to the dining room. As he pulls out the chair for me to sit, I realize how dumb it was to think that. I sit, the normalcy of the meeting almost making me forget why I am here in the first place. This is indefinitely one of the most uncomfortable times I have ever felt, a tense air making it hard to breathe. "Well, Alaric, would you like to begin?" It's silent for a few moments, Alaric clearing his throat, cutting through the safety blanket. Nobody says anything, and I take that as my que. I stand, pushing myself up in front of everyone's eyes. My heart has not yet slowed down, the feeling very much permanent in my chest for the rest of the event. I'm Monet, of the Silver Rock Pack. I speak quietly, feeling everyone's eyes on me. Knowing they're all staring at me with distaste makes it even harder to say what I have to say. I committed the shameful act of disobeying the Alpha. Alaric lets out a stiff breath as I complete my sentence. I have a feeling that even when I do apologize, they aren't going to accept it. And I am severely sorry for what I did. I managed to get it out sounding okay, though I'm convinced they heard me falter. I feel dumb, the way the air is left open and silent. I thought the reason I am here was to apologize for what I did. I've never been in a situation like this before. I don't know what to say after that, so I just sit back down. Nobody says anything, nothing at all. It's an awkward silence that I know only exists because of my presence. Mi arrives with trays of food. She places them one by one in front of each individual person. As she gets to me, I mutter a thank you and she leaves. Still, nobody except for myself has said anything. I assumed everyone here had already knew why we were here, but that was proven wrong when Alpha Odon spoke up. Alaric, what's the meaning of this pardon? Pardon? I'm being pardoned for everything I've done and I'm being let off. It all clicks in my brain, for I'm not here to apologize. I'm here at a meeting for a pardon. It confuses me even more that Alaric's mother and father don't know why I'm here. It makes me wonder if anybody knows, especially Genevora. I wish I could see her the way I could smell her right now. Despite it being a weaker scent compared to the alphas in the room, it still taunts me. That's a matter we don't need to discuss right now. I hear from the right side of the table, Alaric gritting through the conversation. I think Odon has a point, Alec. A fluttery voice of a woman almost pleads. Genevora sits on the opposite side of the table as myself, though a few chairs to the right. The table is large and there are a couple of empty chairs, but she still feels close to me. I feel on the spot, being the topic of conversation. They talk about me as if I'm not in front of them, as if because I can't see them talk about me, it doesn't matter if I can hear them. Truly, Alaric. You've always been a sympathizer, but I never taught you to allow rogue bitches to run your pack for you. I flinched as Alpha Odon gutted me with his words. My wolf was angry, but all I could do is sit in place and accept it. This will be over soon. I try and soothe my wolf, which hardly works, but she knows that we must let the scene play out. Enough. A dramatic gasp comes from a woman on the left of the table, which would be Luna Hecate. The five of us sit around, speaking so civilly yet aggressively at the same time. I don't know why I have to be here. My breath hitches and the responses keep getting more and more intense, and I figure that this is a typical dynamic between them. If it wasn't for my being the Alpha's mate, I would have been dead, and Alpha Odon confirmed that. He would have killed me with his own teeth. Excuse me, Alaric, but what is it with this woman? Why was it so necessary to keep her alive? She hardly deserves it, thinking she can do whatever she pleases. Hecate follows after her unneeded dramatism. I don't want to hear the answer from him, and I'm sure nobody else wants to either. They've assumed so many things about me before even hearing me. I've apologized as I was told to, and now I'm apparently on trial. They don't know why I'm here and they don't know what I am. How could they so easily dismiss my life? I suggest you stop pushing, father and mother. You are not going to like the answer. I can tell one of them is going to explode if nobody steps in. Enough with your games, son. Quit acting like a child and take charge. You're a goddamned alpha. Act like one. The more they speak, the louder they get. You really want to know. Alaric mutters calmly, yet with an underlying anger that means nothing good will come. She's my mate. Word count 1477. Enough with your games, son. Quit acting like a child and take charge. You're a goddamned alpha. Act like one. The more they speak, the louder they get. You really want to know then. Alaric mutters calmly, yet with an underlying anger that means nothing good will come. She's my mate. His voice is low and almost regretting, which provokes an even more exaggerated response. I feel my heart swell and race. My mind clouds with fear. I pull my legs into my chest, curled on the chair in a matter of protection. I hear a chair push back as Hecate stands. Her irritating dramatic entitlement takes hold of all of our attention. That's not true, Genevora utters loud enough to hear. The room unfolds, and all I can do is sit and listen as everyone has their rounds at my neck. Before I know it, there's shouting, more people rising from their seats to intensify the situation. There's an unknown tinge to the air that rises an almost hysterical fear. I try and keep myself in check, but the sudden shift in the room sends me into a panic. My stomach bubbles aggressively, my limbs tingling like pins and needles. I feel my head rocking back and forth, and I get dizzy and washed over with a lightheadedness that I can't control. I try and push out a stiff breath, but I can only muster a shaky, choked, dry cough. I somehow forget how to breathe, and my lungs sting in a hot pain, sending me out of my chair in a stumbling mess. I retrieve the layout of the house from my memory, forcing myself out with a stammer. I force open the door, and the damp air brings awareness to my surroundings. I heave in a gulp of air, attempting to ground myself back into reality. I take note of the humidity in the hair and the damp grass beneath my feet, soggy in a fit of flurries that erupts out of nowhere. The rain showers over me, causing droplets to build on my face and trickle down my jaw. The crisp scent of the rain raw in the atmosphere, it helps calm my beating heart. My lungs have obtained a steady flow of air and my mind fog clears, allowing me open my mind and think straight forward again. I hear footsteps on the muddy ground behind me. A couple of people have followed me out, but I'm not sure how many. The puddles all over the ground obstructs my ability to feel their presence through the earth, and in order to escape their intimidating eyes, I run the way I'm facing. I know I have to shift in order to make my way, as it's almost impossible to avoid shrubbery running around wholly unaware. I hear a shout from behind me, but I ignore it. I know if they truly wanted to catch me, they would. That's why I pace myself and roll into the grass, shifting faster than I ever have. The pain of shifting is still prominent, and my bones ache, but my eyes peel open, and I have a full view of the forest around me. I can tell we aren't far from the town, but I know I cannot go back there now. Instead of my usual run of freedom and exploration, I don't pay attention my surroundings. I pound all four of my feet against the slapping mud, rushing further away from civilization. I don't care about leaving tracks or a scent behind. All I care about is getting as far away as fast as I possibly can. I can't tell how long I've been running for, but it felt like hours. In reality, it has likely only been one. The dark clouds cleared as quickly as they arrived, and the sky lightened into a beautifully clear blue backdrop. I breach the end of the forest and come out into a large field of golden hues. As if the field was alive, its long green and gold limbs dance in the wind, swaying me a welcome. The glint of the sun in the horizon passes through the strands of the tall wheat. Glimmers of water droplets from before sparkle in the light, leaving an everlasting still in my mind of this scenery. The field ends about 100 meters north, though nothing else can be seen past it. I don't want to move an inch to risk this view disappearing on me, but I decide to investigate. I start north, rustling through the field as my fur glides against the wheat. I close my eyes and let my other senses, the ones I'm used to, guide me. They take me into the horizon, where all of my anxieties are discarded and I'm left whole and free. I stop when I feel an absence of surface beneath me, the feeling of a physical echo through the ground, but nothing. Nothing echoes back to me, it's just stale. My eyes gradually open, causing a slight gasp of air to escape my mouth. I'm on the edge of a cliff, a mile above the rigid sea. I'm not sure which one it is, but nonetheless, it's indefinitely my favorite. The furious waves lap against the boulders at the bottom of the cliff, creating a spray of mist far, far into the air. I almost wish the crash of the waves could reach me way up top and water my body. My eyes follow the ocean up and up, until I finally reach a line where the sky meets the sea. I've never seen anything like it in my life. The shimmer of the sun's rays make patterns against the water's currents. The sun hangs in the sky above the horizon line, making me feel like a pebble compared to its magnificence. There's nothing that could make this moment any more perfect. Your first time. It startles me at first, but I relax back into place when I realize who it is. He must have followed me all the way here. He knows I can't answer because I'm still in my wolf form, but I appreciate his making his presence known in asking. He settles in place next to me, and then I feel it. I feel true perfection, because the only thing missing from my picture was that scent. A melancholy feeling droops over me, but in a happy way. My eyes water because for the first time, I'm seeing the ocean, and for the first time, I've felt entirely safe and entirely happy and wholly at ease with my future and where I'll end. I feel like I've accomplished something great, and by that, I'll be forever grateful for where I have ended up. I remember my first time meeting the great horizon. He pulls a handful of grass out of the ground, holding it up and letting it fly away over the great abyss. I wanted to float over the water into the sunrise like a blade of grass. The wind takes it up into the sky and pushing it way into the open air, until finally it was so far away that I couldn't spot it anymore. I hope you have a safe journey to the sun, I tell it. but it'll reach the water once the wind slows down, and it'll merely be floating against the crashing waves. I have to take you back now, and you have to face a consequence on my father's behalf, and I knew I would. I take one last scan of the sky, the field, and the rocks, and then I turn around and start walking home. Word count 1255, a stale metallic scent is clad to the atmosphere. The air is constantly damp, and there is no natural light seeping in whatsoever. My vision is totally dark, the floors and walls a thick cement. The floor tremors lightly every time someone passes through the hall, though this time I can tell they will be stopping at my cell. I know this because the light footsteps are familiar. They're Alina's. I have food for you, she offers, knowing I'm already aware she is here. Our encounters are different than they used to be. It's like seeing me locked up just makes her sad to see me at all. I almost feel bad that she still has to serve me. She shifts uncomfortably where she stands, sitting down against the iron bars. I'm grateful that she sticks around while I eat, it being at least a week since we've had a real conversation. They're really not happy with you, are they? She sounds sad, and as bad as it may sound, it gives me a bit of happiness to know she's sad to be away from me. I don't answer for a while, finishing my plate and sitting in the unmotivated silence. She heaves in a heavy sigh, turning my attention back to her. We're mates, I add like we were engulfed in a regular conversation. But we aren't, and I hear her turn to me in shock. You and? She inquires, despite knowing who I'm speaking about. This is the first time I've seen her since I've been in here, and I figure I really have nothing else to lose. Alaric and I are mates. My voice comes out feeble and distraught. I try and suppress the emotions attempting to all come out right now, but my wolf is so emotional. Hearing me say it out loud to someone must make her miss him on behalf of the mate bond. In all actuality, I know nothing about Alaric. Truly, his character scares me, known widely as the ruthless alpha to the soulless Alpha Odon. It is expected worldwide for him to retain his legacy as Alpha Odon's son and succeed his records of war and murder. I would never step foot near a man like this if it wasn't for the mate bond. And it has grown so much stronger since the time I arrived. I don't know what to do, Alina, I say, feeling out of breath. It's been almost a week in this cell, a soreness within my bones that I cannot shake. She sighs as if she knows exactly how I feel. She starts on her words before being interrupted by a guard. He hollers from his post at the end of the cell block, probably taking joy in seeing us exist in our obvious misery. She gets up and murmurs a goodbye, walking straight towards the exit. I hear the security gates click and reel open, and then the same as it closes behind her. I listen as her footsteps fade all the way down the hall, until she is gone. In contrast to her leaving, echoes of boisterous footsteps approach. I assume it's the guard doing his rounds to check on everybody's cells, not that there are many of us down here. Maybe one or two of us stay confined in the underground jail system of the Sanguine Pack. Surprisingly enough, not many are lucky enough to merely be put in a cell. Most of them lose their lives. I'm not paying any attention when I'm approached, but the smell tells me everything I need to know. That intoxicating, familiar smell that seems to follow me everywhere I go. I can't deny it sparks a joy within me to have him here seeing me, but I realize that letting myself be happy because of him is false. He doesn't actually make me happy, the mate bond does. It's easy for me to suppress the feelings, having gained the ability from my years of countless disappointments and letdowns. I'm accepting that I have met my mate, and that he's already spoken for, though I'm not sure if he's ever been taught that he can't keep me under his eye as a pet, while he carries on with his future Luna. That's something I only recently learned, that I should think for myself. That's why once I am let out of here, if I ever am, I will leave the Banewalker pack. I have no place here if I have no mate. Even if Alaric has more recently been kind to me, it's for the same reason I no longer fear him. Monet, he says almost coldly, a stark contrast to the way he said my name just yesterday. Every time I encounter him, he is either an angel or a devil, as if he has to fight internally whether he likes me or not. Perhaps he wants to hate me more than he's ever wanted anything, but our bond makes him lenient. I realize I'm thinking within my insecurities and I need to stop, so I just stand and face the iron rods, the only thing between Alaric and I. I've been around him so much in the last week that it's starting to feel normal, and that thought alone makes me uneasy. Our conversation was unjust, he comments in a flat huff, and I apologize. I'm taken aback by his sudden sincerity, if you can call it that. His voice still extorts in a muttered coldness, but his words show his intentions. Maybe he truly is sorry about the way the dinner turned out, although it still took him a week to say it. I wonder what he looks like in this moment. I remember back my first time as a wolf, the blurry images of his figure standing over me in my head. I recall those fiery eyes and the way they contravene each other, like day and night swirling around in a blaze. Yes, Alpha, I agree. I match his stoicism, agreeing with his statement. My voice is quiet like always, but I hope he picked up on my bluntness. The conversation that happened in front of me at dinner was unjust, and it makes me feel good to let him know. I like to imagine him feel sorry for what happened, but even in his moments of kindness, I'm not sure he is. Word count 1074 Alaric's POV, I smooth the material with my hands, running them firmly along my neatly cut shirt. My heart has been erratic since I rouse. Impulsive thoughts swarm through me. My intentions are entirely selfish. I breathe in my last lungful of fresh air, ducking under and down the dingy stairs of my basement. I know it's more so a jail instead of a basement, but saying so sounds bad to public ears. It's hypocritical of me to judge people for being dishonest, though I can't say I've been prioritizing honesty lately. I have an omega trail behind me with a plate of food, one that I snatch up when we are at the bottom of the stairs. They leave quickly, waiting at the top. I march to the security post where I'll be let through immediately and down the hall. The closer I get, the more my throat closes, and the harder it is for me to swallow. She must know I'm here already, her keen sense of smell picking up anything from a kilometer away, when she's paying attention, of course. Yesterday, I seem to have caught her off guard, as I had just entered as I ordered her tendi to leave. If not from me, at least Monet has found peace in my pack with someone else. Elena and Monet seem to have become friends. It's obvious she knows I'm here as she sits on the flat mattress, directed towards the closed cell door. Her typically wavy hair is matted and sticks to her cheeks, one side shoved behind her ear, as the rest falls to the side with her tilted head. The way her gazeless eyes stare in my direction makes a flutter disperse through my body uncontrollably. I only saw her yesterday, yet the loneliness I felt when I left was immeasurable. I feel even more drawn to her when she shows little to no affection towards me. She merely sits without motion, her lips in a line and her eyes a solid blue hue. The mate bond, one which I thought I'd never have, has strengthened to whole new heights for me. It seems as if it barely affects her, and that pains me. I place her plate through the slit on the ground, sliding it into her inhumane cage. Her porcelain pink skin doesn't deserve to be covered in grime as it is now. Her reddened lips from being so bitten don't deserve to be torn and dry. I know nothing of her life, yet I know she deserves so much more than what I have offered. If the moon goddess exists, she is frowning upon me now. If my parents were not who they are and I were not raised how I was, I would not be with someone who isn't my mate, and they would not dictate my small, confined life. Until I found Monet, I never cared about having a mate. I wasn't entirely sure they were real, until I felt the wave electricity pass through me, the night of her Pax Moon Festival. I knew then that I needed her in my life, even though it was selfish and cruel. I took her from her home and I don't regret it one bit, and from her demure behavior when she arrived here, I don't think she does either. Touching her was like all of my stress and pent-up emotions being released from my cold body. With her, I feel warm and welcome and I want to be better for my pack, but I always find myself reverting back. Elena couldn't come. I lied. I stand curt, an intimidating height bearing over her sitting form. The position starts to make me uncomfortable, my authoritative height reminding me of last week, when I had to force her into submission. All I want to do is talk to her almost every moment of my time away. I see as wasted time I could have been getting to know her. She's been near me for so long that the bond is making me inseparable from her, yet the only thing I know about her is that she's shy. Not only shy, but anxious and wise. She's keen, can memorize a room in 5 minutes. She has fearful instincts that come out when she's most scared. Her wolf's reflexes could send even the strongest alphas into a panic. Is she all right? She questions in a quiet yet firm tone, her lips moving ever so slightly. I take this time to end my guilty feeling of standing above her and kneel down on the cold concrete floor. Her eyes remain stoic and bounce down slightly, following the sound of my movements. Her cracked and almost bloodied lips twitch to the side, a tongue poking out to moisten the probably painful cuts. She's okay, I say in a quiet, low tone. I match my voice to her soft one as good as I can, though I admit I'm not good at sounding gentle. I stare at her and analyze her tiny movements. Not that long ago, she was too scared to even open her eyes around me. Her speech was in shambles, and she couldn't utter a word without stuttering. It makes me desperate to know how she's doing now, how she likes being in my pack. Though if I were to ask and she said she hated it, I think I'd fall apart. And then I'd lock her back up in her room and try not to feel bad as I continued to live. We fall silent, and I don't expect her to say anything more. I've been thinking about the ocean under the cliff and how I found her so close to the edge. She was in her wolf form at the time, but I could almost feel her emotions. Maybe as her mate, it's possible. Maybe her emotions were so strong as she stared over the horizon into the sky that some poured over to me. I wish I told her I feel it too, Monet, but I couldn't. I least expected for her to speak to me, so I'm caught off guard when she tilts her head and asks, "How are you, Alpha?" It makes my stomach dance to hear her inquiring about me, but that only lasts a second. Then I find an irritation in her formality. I'm not your alpha, I'm your mate. I find myself annoyed, yet my voice can only muster a soft, lilted tone like hers, and you can call me Alec. Word count 1200 Monet's POV, he sits on the other side of the cell, peering in at me through the bars. Some say that mates can feel the gaze of their partner, and well, I wouldn't say it's a lie. My lips feel fuzzy as I lick them, my eyes a mess of tingles as I blink the dryness away. Just like yesterday, he came down to the jail to visit me. This time, unlike the other times, he's being sweet to me. He started off cold and distant, but as time passed, he lowered down to the floor. His demeanor is ironic, considering he's the reason I am down here. It's been quiet for a while, and I can't help but think about the dilapidated rocks of the cliff bottom. I thought about his behavior then, and how he kindly made himself known, then sat and told me a story from his childhood. It felt good to hear him sound so sincere and personal, and I wonder how often he's like that. Thinking about it made me want to know more about my mate, even if I have already made up my mind about leaving. It would kill me to leave without knowing the truth, and I'm not sure I'm ready to leave this possibility behind until I find it. "How are you, Alpha?" I ask in a stray of sympathy and curiosity. I can't keep my stomach from bubbling in anticipation as I await his answer. I expect him to give a brief, casual answer, though I'm met with neither. "I'm not your alpha, I'm your mate." He says so low, it sounds almost painful, and I know from that alone that he's already fallen for the bond. And it hurts me to say, but I have been suppressing the feelings so much that I can hardly say I feel the same. Though, nobody can deny that his next words make the bond hit me square in the face. "And you can call me Alec." He murmurs as if he told me his deepest insecurity, and it makes me frown. It's not even what he says that makes feel it, it's the time of his voice. A shy, sad whisper. I try not to let it make me feel any different, his attempts at being kind only bothering me slightly. But I know we are not equals. He is an alpha, and I do not compare. The bond makes me yearn to hear his voice just once more before he departs, but the sensible part of my brain doesn't care about anything he has to say. Nothing will make me want him now. Only the superficial mate bond attracts me to him. If it weren't for that, we would have never crossed paths, and we would both be better for it. Maybe I would be on his side had he only treated me better. Since being here, this cell, deprived of sunlight, I have only hate for the alpha of the sanguine pack. He can't keep me in here forever. I don't believe he wants to. It's been another while of neither of us saying anything, awkwardness blanketing the air. Moved from a crouching position to a sitting one, and that's how we've been for probably an hour. Doesn't he have alpha things to do? Maybe he wants company. He must have seen the thought etched into my face because he begins to talk again. "You look uncomfortable," he stated, like I'd be comfortable anywhere near him. How could I be? I forced out, louder and faster than I expected. It makes me frown again. I don't want to be impulsive. For now on, I answer with only calculated responses. I make sure to maintain formality, knowing how it frustrates him. If only he felt a fraction of what he made me feel. I didn't want this, Monet, he says just above a whisper. His gaze droned over my body, starting at my legs to my torso, arms, shoulders, collarbone, neck. The only way I can describe the feeling is like sunlight through a magnifying glass. The heat traces along your body, leaving gentle kisses of tingles in its absence. He must know what he's doing. My sleep-ridden body stammers forth, my hold on the mysterious man's forearm as I lag slightly behind. I assume it is morning time, the crisp scent of dew in the air and the wet feeling encasing my feet, getting between my toes. I don't mind the moist feeling of my feet slipping against the grass to push me forward. I focus on it. I hear a light squidge each time I tramp my foot to the ground, then a splash on my back calf as I pick it back up. I start to breathe heavy and slow down, but he still holds on and drags me behind. I'm not sure how far we made it out, but I'm assuming not far at all. My face contorts in an upsetting manner, knowing I have a long journey ahead. What's your name? I manage to heave through my pants, though I'm not sure talking is the best option right now. He doesn't answer, so I assume he either hasn't heard me or doesn't want to. What is going on? My mind is tired, clouded, unconsciously moving without thinking about it. Who am I with? Where am I going? I'm so confused. We keep our pace for what seems like a long time, but I'm not holding on any longer, and my weary mind is now woken and sharp. I gained some stamina, and I'm using the sound of the ground to tell me where I am and where to go. I allow myself to fall into a sink of footstep after footstep. Each time I pellet down, I see or rather feel further into the forest. My eyes close only gently, and my arms point behind me in a mountain pose. It becomes natural, and I don't even have to think. I weave through the forest alongside the man, his footsteps mashing into the sound of mine. I think it's almost noon when we reach a river and stop, allowing our hearts to settle and limbs to relax. I don't know what is going on, but I know I'm out of sanguine pack territory. I lie on my back in the now dry grass, a sense of peace washing over me, despite the uncertainty of the situation. Nobody knows where I am, what my name is, and that my mate is an alpha. Morrison is my name, but I trust you not to tell a soul. I don't answer, I just accept it. I absorb the information and agree with it, letting it into my mind and then forgetting about it. I don't need to remember, I just need to be grateful. What's yours? He HMMS at my unresponsive voice. He doesn't even know my name, and yet he decided to break into my cell, drag me into the forest, and help me to escape. He did all that, and he doesn't even know my name. Monet, I respond in an easy tone, loud enough to be dragged away by the breeze. My hair wisps away with it, gently blowing with the grass, with the leaves, and with the whispers in the wind. I sway my arms against the tips of the soft grass. From my sides, my arms float to make a T with my body, allowing the raw earth to soak through what is my meek body and into my soul. A therapeutic way of letting go of everything but what serves me. We stay there for a while, not talking and or moving. We make it a point to rest before we know it's time to begin again, and I wonder how long my journey will last with Morrison. Perhaps not long, and I'd be okay with it. I feel myself being pulled to the other ends of the earth, exploring and understanding what it entails. I can see myself in foreign packs, exploring the way their cultures differ from my home pack. We need to shift. Morrison explains from my left, adding movement to the already flowing water. I only nod, standing to ready myself. He takes a few paces back, the familiar sound of crackling bones taking his place. I know he's done when I feel him next to me, a soft brush of his side against my exposed leg. I shift just as he did, giving myself a moment to adjust to the scene. It feels wrong to trust a person so easily, but what other choice do I truly have right now? I can't be left alone in strange territory by myself. I don't know the first thing about being out here. The sun hovers slick above where we stand. A direct shimmer contrasting the water deprives me partially of my sight, though it beckons me in nevertheless. The water is cool as it encases the thick layers of fur on my wolf's body. This is the first time she's been out in a while, and I let her enjoy her moment of freedom before we have to move again. I'm hesitant of the icy water at first, standing high as all 4 of my legs submerge. The water rushes softly downstream, lightly pushing me, but not enough to move my body. I anchor to the bottom and push my head in, feverishly shaking the water from my heavy waterlogged fur. I do it again, and enjoy it much better this time. The water encases my head as I duck under again and again, the feeling of being wholly surrounded making me feel safe and warm. Now, it's more than my head that I submerge, and suddenly my entire body is underwater. It scares me, but it gives me a new, rushing, freeing feeling. My body fills with energy, and I begin to move my legs in a unison pattern, which gives me control on where I go. I allow the water to pick me up, and my body loses all of its weight, as if I'm not even here anymore, like I don't have a physical body on Earth. I float like smoke in the air, something I have never experienced and something I have never thought could feel so liberating. I feel like I'm just conscience, not bound to any physical means of this ground, and if I wanted to, I could lift up from my body and fly away. I make it to the other side and pull myself out, still processing the way I can float atop the water. Morrison crossed with ease, and we both know that it's time to go. Where, I'm not sure. Maybe somewhere safe. Word count 1101. Hi everyone. Just a reminder that there is only a couple more chapters before the ending of Blind Instincts. I'm sad to be almost done writing, but so happy that I finally finished this work that I started 2021. Another thank you to everyone who read through. This is my first wholly completed book, and although I lost motivation for it for a while, I am proud it's completed. If you want to see more, check my profile to see more future works coming. The sky beckons my eyes to its tender slash of colors, ones that I do not know the names of. I consider asking Morrison, who lies on his side next to me. It makes me believe that he has watched the sunset so many times, he isn't even interested anymore. Opposing him, I keep myself awake as long as my body allows, just to watch as everything melts into a heaping mess of warmth. His exposed body doesn't bother me anymore, the countless hours we've spent just existing in each other's company rendering body shyness useless. I've come to enjoy the freedom of not being confined by fabrics and insecurities, allowing my moon-gifted body to explore the earth as it should. Despite Morrison likely never feeling ashamed of his body's exposure, I thank him mentally for allowing me the passage to feel the same. I take one last glace at the night sky, clawing its way above me as it pinches the sun further and further down. It's now almost fully dark, and so I make the decision to sleep in my human body. Goodbye, I say in my head to everything around me, although I know they won't be leaving, and neither will I. I close my eyes and keep them closed, shifting to find a comfortable spot in the grass. It's been a couple of days since Morrison and I last spoke, my preference lying in my wolf's body. It's safer that way, vulnerability lying in the human form. Sounds of the forest breathe and croak and rustle around me, my eyelashes skimming the grass, leaving a soft tickle on my eyelids. The grass is now flattened beneath me, and dew from its long green strands moisten my cheek. It sticks to my body as I peel upwards into a sitting position, listening for Morrison. I tap the ground heavily to hear for his position, but I still can't locate him. I contemplate on whether I should shift to be safe. I push myself off the ground in a swift manner, planting my feet into the dirt. My feet are spread the length of my shoulders, my arms bent slightly in front of me. I hear nothing but the earth, and yet my intuition strikes panic in the pit of my stomach. I force a slow breath out of my lungs, subsiding any decisions I might make out of fear. This is something Morrison taught me to do. Our first few days, it was difficult for me to not freak out. Sometimes it still is, though I'm now learning how to control how I react, no matter my emotion. My body releases tension, nothing unearthly being heard or even smelt. I realize I am safe, despite the uneasy feeling still thick in my gut. As always, I keep alert, like Morrison taught me. It's on our 3rd week of travel we finally reach a pack. Morrison and I ran through plains, forests, and even crossed a few Great Lakes to get here. We didn't know where we were going or where we would end up, though it proved worthwhile as we arrived in the pack's territory. We knew to be very careful as we entered their territory, appearing as kind as possible, as to not be taken as a threat. Most alphas are accepting of visitors. though some are left with deep scars of the recent war and will likely never trust another rogue. We walking among others on the clay streets, our beaten and dirtied bodies bound to catch their attention. All I can hope is that the people of this pack are trusting, allowing us a short life in their pack before I head off again. The knowledge I've learned over the last 3 weeks is unimaginable. I would have never pictured myself ever having the freedom I do now. Hey! I startle at the shout of a pack member, jumping slightly away from the sound. It's early morning, the sun only just peeking out from the edge of the trees. I've been awake for hours, continuing my way on. I left a northern pack days ago, one which I've been to before. I was more welcome this time around than I had been the first, pleasant in contrast to my first visit. Rogue conspirators are not welcome here, the alpha spat at me out first meet. Not so trusting, for understanding reasons. Apparently the pack closed up since the previous alpha died suddenly, and the current one has to abruptly take over. It satisfied me as he welcomed me back the second time. Gaining trust of an alpha isn't an easy task, though I never plan to revisit. Life has been simple since I found my own way. Life is enjoyable. I travel and I meet people, good and bad. I make memories with the good people and I handle the bad people. I hear a movement in the distance, and I know it's what I'm looking for. I stand still, listening to the movements to catch its exact position. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where it is. Movements cease and total stillness lands upon us. I hence into making as much noise as I can, running shortly in the direction the original sound came from. I stopped still and listened, to which I heard the sound of success. It's running heavily away, making noise and stamping everywhere. I take off in the same direction, listening and following. It doesn't matter if it sees me before I do, I'm faster. I catch up and we're almost side by side, just running for a while and waiting. I make the move and leap to my right, taking us both down and plunging into its neck. I'm successful, and although I'm not happy about it, I'm impressed. It's been a few days, so I divulge as much as I can. Then I continue on my way. After a while, my body is weak and aching, my legs sore and my eyes weary. I push to continue, forcing my legs to keep sprinting. My feet are heavy as they pound sloppily against the ground. Everything around me is a full-motion blur, the terrain mere lines in my peripheral vision. I can barely make anything out around me, only what is in focus straight forward. My pace slows, unable to keep my body running full force for any longer. Everything is tired, even my eyes are drawing closed. Everything in me wants to stop and rest, take a small break at the very least. I will myself to keep going. Ahead and all around me are tall, thin trees, the tallest I've ever seen. The terrain of the territory I am in currently is entirely different than that of my home pack, or even the Sanguine pack. The climate is colder and the area is rocky, with slight plateaus and increases in the ground. It is a mostly open area, though still dark. The sparse trees with little branches on the shaft, only at the top does it blanket across the sky in wide stretches of green. I slow even more, almost accepting that my body is simply not cut for this type of activity. I can't run forever, despite how free I have been the last 5 months. I know it's coming soon, my mind originally wary, though I've come to accept that it has to. I've delayed the confrontation long enough. I don't want to keep running away, I want to simply do what I want, without anybody thinking about me. Especially not Alaric. I know it has been months since I've been there, passing through countless territories, taking refuge in many packs. But I still have not had enough time to think over everything that has happened, what I've escaped and all I experiences. I pushed everything to the bottom of my mind, not wanting to relive any of it. I know I need to sooner or later. When I stop moving is when I'll be faced with him, I know it. To be honest, I didn't even think he'd look for me at first. I'm surprised he has been, though admittedly not very hard. I can't be that good at covering my tracks, I know I'm not. Though Morrison did teach me everything helpful for living how he does. Wow, the end. Let me know your final thoughts and opinions, I'd love to hear it all. Criticism, love, hate, anything. Thank you for everyone who read through the entirety of Blind Instincts. I appreciate you all. There will eventually be an epilogue chapter uploaded, which may foreshadow a second book, depending on your guys' reviews, so let me know if you want it too. I have some ideas. If you want to add some of your ideas for a future book too, go ahead. By the way, the official word count off Blind Instincts at the date of completion is 33,915 words. Just to let you guys know, if you like my writing, I have another werewolf book out now. Spee Wi-Fi's set to be a novella about an oracle she-wolf on her own path of life. Here is the current description, but keep in mind that this is merely a wrought draft, and it is set to change in the future Kivan. I whisper, my body reacting to him wholly. His eyes glisten when I say his name, something I like. I hold power with my voice. I can get him to twist with just the sound of his name. I know you want something from me. His voice is low, hushed. His eyes are glazed over with pure instinctual excitement. I don't want you, Kivan, I lie. My body yearns for attention. If he knew what I wanted, he'd be savage. I'd make him make me scream. I'm going to make him want me more than he has ever desired anything. Alpha Kivan is going to lust for me for so long and so bad. One day he will crack and take what he wants from me. That day, and only that day, is when I'll scream his name across the Kildare Pack territory. Delpha is a spee wife, a fortune eteler. She is the oracle of the Kildare Pack. She has many secrets, but the biggest lies within Alpha Kivan, inherited leader of the pack. One day, Delpha accidentally uncovers life-changing information which involve a deep connection between herself and the person she despises the most. Alpha Kivan is greedy and self-centered, a man who takes what he can. He strives for power and nothing less. The biggest thing in his mind right now a war he pledged over the eastern land. Alpha Kivan is left unaware and ignorant about the spee wife in his pack. He is only interested in using her abilities for leverage in his war.